Benji,
Hey, what?
I have a question for you.
What's that?
What's your favorite scary movie?
Ooh.
Bet you didn't see that one coming.
Oh, that was creepy.
Yeah,
man.
you were probably like, oh, what's he
like,
going to ask?
I was like, where did Rizzo go? Oh, no. Scream's in the room now.
Why do you... That's so annoying. Every time you text, you call him Scream.
I think it's funny.
And it takes me a second. I'm always like, what? Who's Scream? No, the movie's called Scream. The killer is not called Scream. The killer is called Ghostface.
The killer is Scream.
Actually, in the first movie, he was just referred to as the voice.
Oh.
And you know who does the voice's voice?
Michael Jackson.
Roger L. Jackson, who...
What's your favorite scary movie?
I'm dead.
What was it? Sorry, what are you saying?
No, I was going to tell you, you already know this because this is the second time we've recorded this intro, but for those who didn't know, Roger L. Jackson, the voice of Ghostface, is also the voice of Mojo Jojo of Powerpuff Girls fame.
Yes, no, we know where Mojo Jojo is from. So
do we?
That's interesting. Well, we do, yes.
There you go. Hi, welcome back, Pop Stars. This is the Pink Popcast, a pop culture podcast where we talk about film, media,
and everything else.
I'm Rizzo.
I'm Benji.
And today we are reviewing Scream 2022.
Scream.
Or as it's also known, Scream. Not to be confused with Scream.
Or Scriform.
Or Scriform. Well, we're only like 2 weeks into the new year, but this was one of my most anticipated films this year.
Oh.
And
starting the bar off high.
It was honestly high, and we'll talk about whether or not that was warranted. But Benji, had you really ever watched the Scream movies before me?
So here's the thing, Pop Stars. I'm new to the Scream franchise.
There you go.
So I thought... Because I thought that I had seen Scream, actually, the first one. And then, like around Halloween this year?
Last year, 2021.
Last year, we were like, you were like, Scream's like one of my favorite like horror trilogies. Let's watch it. Trilogy, whatever it is.
Franchise, but yeah.
Yeah, he was like, let's watch it. And I was like, yeah, sure. Like, I've seen it, so it's not going to be like something we should react to. So yeah, let's watch it. And then we start watching it, and I was like, wait, this isn't right. Like,
we started watching the first movie, and you were like,
I was
really shocked,
completely unsettled, and I don't even like,
because you were getting it not confused.
I was getting it fully confused because I thought I'd seen the movie, and I was like, I don't remember any of this, but I know exactly what's going to happen. Why is that?
And why was that?
It was because I've seen scary movies so many goddamn times. That I kept being all like, but it's the boyfriend, right? But why does he look different? And why do I not, why are they saying different lines?
Pop Stars, honestly, it's a shame we weren't recording ourselves.
Yeah, because I didn't realize.
Because Benji's reaction to the first movie, first off, I have a projector in my living room and I have surround sound. It's a humble brag, but it's also kind of important because it literally transported us within like a few seconds. As soon as that phone ring goes off, you were sitting there and you're like, and like as Drew Barrymore is pacing around the house of the first film, I could feel you just slowly get a little bit more somber, and like
it was dark, bro. Like it was. I will say, are we talking about the new one yet?
Not yet. So no spoilers just yet.
Not yet. That was We'll hit a point in here where it'll say spoilers, and then you run for the hills, guys.
Run.
Everything in me wants to scream out the killer.
Don't do it.
I know. We're not gonna do it. We're not gonna do it. Don't turn off the set just yet. Whatever you're watching on the set. I just turned into a boomer for a second.
Continue.
But yeah. No. So the opening scene of the original one is just, it's so sad. Like I feel so bad for her. And honestly, like, I mean, Drew Barrymore is amazing, and she's
a phenomenal actress.
She's fantastic at melting my heart because obviously,
the
scene with the eggs and never been kissed is like one of the few times I like cried as a kid in a movie.
That's true.
I didn't cry, but I wanted to. But I'm not a crier, so I count it. But it was a lot, and I think the worst part of it for me was the fact that her parents were right there.
Yeah.
And not only the fact that she almost escaped to her parents, like she almost got to them, the fact that not only did she not make it, but we had to watch her parents slowly come back from a nice night and then watch literally a good night go to the worst night, and them like see that something's wrong and their daughter's missing, and then hear her on the phone and trying to find her, and then finding her the way that they did was like fully, I was just like, I can't like imagine that.
Yeah.
So
Honestly, that opening, and there's a reason why we're talking about this. We are going to get to Scream 2022. But the opening of the first movie it was one of the first times I sat down to watch a horror movie by myself, by the way. I actually watched this all on my own. And I was sitting in my room, and I remember two things happened. For one, I was just in complete awe and silence as I watched this. And I was shaken. I think it's the most I've ever been shaken at a film because it kind of disarms you. You go in there thinking it's going to be like this fun kind of like, and it really is. Outside of that first movie and that first scene, the series is more fun.
Yeah.
Which is something I liked about this new movie, and we'll get there. But with this opening scene, it sets the stage of like, you never know, A, who's going to die, how they're going to die, and how heavy it's going to be.
Yeah, no, exactly.
And I think that first film, and we've talked about this before on our live stream, which you can check out below. Link will be below. But the thing that first movie did so well is it had an emotional weight to it that I don't feel most of the other sequels really carried until this new one.
Yeah, and I can agree with that, but that's also just the way it goes for, I think, original movies is a lot of the times the originality itself kind of leans to a more genuinity to it. And the fact that often the first movies are usually so simple that that's true. End up leaning more into a genuine territory.
I'm glad you said that too, because simple is a key. We'll talk about that concerning the end of this film. So let's get into it. We are talking about Scream 2022. This was the requel, as they would like to brand it.
Careful. Are we at spoiler mode?
We're not at spoiler mode just yet. This was directed by Radio Silence. It's a team of directors. Let's see if I can pronounce the names right. Matt Bettinelli, Open.
You don't have to pronounce it. Radio Silence, bro.
I hate you. And Tyler Gillette. They directed segments of VHS and one of our. You enjoyed it, right? Ready or Not?
I was like, I don't maybe say the name of it.
Well, I almost said our favorites. I was like, that's kind of a...
Yeah, no, Ready or Not was really good. Yeah, I loved it.
So Ready or Not, which came out in, I don't remember, but if you haven't seen that was a very solid horror film, especially if you're trying to ease into the genre.
It was a fun thriller slasher type.
Horror is an all-encompassing...
Yeah.
Because even this movie, like, were you genuinely scared?
No. This like,
and you get scared,
and that's the thing that's why I prefer slashers to like horror.
Yes,
is because it's scary. They're scary in the moment. Like the suspense is all in the moment,
right?
And it's all your concern for the characters.
But you're not like leaving the theater.
Yeah, exactly. But I will say this one gave me more of a feeling of I would never at the end of this trust anyone.
Oh shit! I'm excited.
So any other
basic plot. We have our returning characters from the first films, but this one actually focuses more on Samantha Carpenter, which is a nod to John Carpenter, obviously of horror director fame. Her sister is, first off, not only is she is the first survivor of an opening Scream scene.
So spoilers at this point.
A little bit of spoilers.
That's definitely.
Okay, yeah, you're right. Spoilers, sorry,
spoilers here. Just go ahead.
5 minutes into the movie,
right
spoilers.
Here.
But the plot is Sam returns back into town after his sister is attacked. And we come to find out that, A, there's a new Ghostface. Oh, wouldn't you know it? And this new Ghostface is picking off people that are related to legacy characters or people who were involved in the original killings.
Yeah.
So that's the basic plot line, and I think we can start.
From the trailer, basically.
That's from the trailer. It was a little bit of a surprise. Most people guessed that Jenny Ortega, who plays the sister Tara, was going to survive. I was kind of shocked.
Who guessed that?
People who spend way too much time on subreddits, which is a part of the movie too. I think. Should we?
Let's get into
wait.
it.
Before we do spoilers.
What's up? I mean, we already okay.
Like
go ahead. Minutes. But I mean, all the people who didn't want spoilers probably left already.
I'm sorry.
Anyways, go ahead.
What did you think of this movie? No spoilers.
I enjoyed it.
You enjoyed it?
No spoilers. I enjoyed it. No spoilers. I was upset at the end, but no spoilers.
Okay, I'm excited about that.
No spoilers.
So we saw it twice. We just got back from the second viewing. And it always, especially films like this, it takes me 2 viewings to decide how I feel, because the first time, I don't trust anybody.
I agree.
Anytime someone's talking, I'm like, what's your motive? What's your motive?
You're the killer. You're the killer.
See, because I'm not trying to guess who the killer is, but I also find myself not wanting to believe anybody.
Yeah.
So if even when her sister is kind of like crying and stuff, and like they're like connecting and bonding. I'm like,
Are you the killer?
Are you the killer? We won't
and we
say
don't know.
We don't know.
Who
And I
the
just
killer is.
here I am, like even looking at sisters and family, being like, you motherfuckers.
Well, but in number 4, you can't trust family. So it is
so true.
It's like they've crossed that kind of like that one boundary that's
true.
You can't cross that has been already crossed in this. The only final boundary that they could cross,
oh God,
would be crossing the survivor, the legacy character boundary,
right? Which we don't know if they do that.
A legacy character be the killer. So,
well, honestly,
maybe they'll cross it in this one, and maybe they won't.
Well, we're about to tell you. It was something I was considering going in because for years, just a little backstory on me. I discovered Scream probably around the time the 4th movie was announced, so I started watching them kind of on my own.
Oh wow, you're brand new.
I mean, I'm 11 years brand new, but sure. Like, I didn't grow up with it. I was,
yeah, but
as I mentioned before, I'm Christian and homeschooled, so I didn't grow up watching.
For sure, but you still came in on the last one.
It's true. But there was something about it that I always found fascinating. The idea that someone could literally just go, I want my life to be like a movie. I'm going to throw a mask on. And for me, there's something so terrifying about that. The idea of like just any one of your friends being so narcissistic, so self-involved, psychotic, and just saying, I'm gonna snap and go crazy and having some bullshit. And that's the thing I think the first film does so well with its simplicity. You want to just jump into spoilers?
That's what I'm saying.
Let's do it.
Is there reasoning in the first one for
so good?
It's just very simple.
It's terrifying. You watch that movie, and when it gets to them, when it reveals that shocking Billy Loomis and Stu Macher, you're kind of like, you don't. They even say they're like, there is no motive, and you just kind of sit there going,
yikes. You're crazy.
Yeah. And there's something about it that's so accessible. Like, that could literally be any one of your friends who's like, oh, I'm not a secret psychopath. I think that's what works so well about the first movie, is there's not much of a change from Billy Loomis and Stu Macher before they're the killers to Billy Loomis and Stu Macher after they're the killers. Mm-hmm. They're basically doing scenes the exact same way they've been performing.
They are, and that's why the first one is so like kind of infuriating. It's just like, you're like, I knew it was, I wrote it off because like she trusted them, so I trusted them. But they were so creepy the whole time. We should have fucking known because it was right in our face. But I think what they played on.
In a weird way, realistic, because it's like, I think it plays on just how a slight change of view can color how you see someone, where it's like, what is one man's enthusiasm and goofiness can be another person's
psychotic
like obsession as well. And like the opposite of goofiness would almost be like a just complete and total disregard for life.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Versus, spoiler alert, we're getting into spoilers for Scream 2022. Okay. When they revealed the killers in this one, which guess what, Benji? Who was it?
It was the spoilers. It was the fucking boyfriend.
Goddamn boyfriend again. The boyfriend and the 5 foot fucking nothing. Anyway, we'll get to that. But like,
I think she's 5'3" though.
5'3". So we had what ends up happening is Sam's boyfriend, who is Jack Quaid. I don't know if you ever watched The Boys.
I don't think so.
Oh, well.
Is he related to Dennis?
I believe so.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, they
connections.
So he ends up being the killer, and Mickey Madison, who is like Tara, the girl who got stabbed, the younger sister's friend, she ends up being the secondary killer. And these two,
Amber,
right?
Amber.
These two met on a subreddit, and so they go off and they go monologuing, as these killers always do.
They start monologuing.
Should
we get into the end right now, or should we build to that like the movie? I feel like we're given the whole, we're selling the milk with the cow and not the free.
The what?
All that stuff.
Okay, all right. Well, start us off at the beginning.
I will say really quickly, though, with the reasoning at the end, I had something to say about that. I'm so annoyed that
you just forgot.
Fully vacated my head. I'll get there eventually. So, do you want to start off the movie?
Yeah. Okay. So the movie starts off. It's basically a recreation of Drew Barrymore's scene in the beginning of Scream 1, except this time we have Jenny Ortega, who I'm pretty sure she's trying to take over every horror movie out there.
Yeah, she's putting in work on the horror movies.
She's gonna be that new it girl.
But also, it was in the same house, right?
I don't know. It looks so similar to Drew Barrymore's house.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the same house, and also I just love that. I feel like it was the same house.
It looked different on the inside.
I felt like the outside looked a little different, but the tree out front, I'm pretty sure is the same one.
Looked very similar.
Well, I guess comment down below because we didn't do enough research.
Benji, when does this movie take place, too?
On my birthday. Not the whole movie, but the first scene. It's September 23rd, at least on her phone. But if she's anything like me when I was in high school, our phone was not correct on anything.
Never.
It was not up to date.
So she gets a call, and Roger Jackson, what I love about his voice is he always kind of, he like reinvents it every other film or so.
Yeah.
And it's like, he kind of just has like a really normal voice at first. And he's just kind of like casually talking with her.
Yeah, he's talking in like a real voice.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And as he's walking her through kind of like hit whatever lie he's trying to bullshit on her, you know what? Something I noticed. I'm glad we talked about the killers. The first 4 characters introduced in this film are our 2 main heroes and our 2 villains.
Oh.
So like you have Jenny Ortega as Tara on the phone with Ghostface, and Ghostface shows a video, and she's texting with Amber.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course Amber's phone ends up being hacked. Or so she says, until we find out in the end it is one of cloned. We find out that she's one of the killers. So in the first scene, we're introduced to 2 characters, and that's Tara and Amber, which is a hero and a villain. And then in the literal next scene, right after the opening credits,
interesting.
No other characters are introduced. You get Sam, who's the sister, who's played by Melissa Barrera, and then you get Richie,
who's her boyfriend, who is also the fucking killer.
Which I think is very impressive because I'm pretty sure that's the only Scream to have like introduced all of the main characters at once. And it almost like, I think that was a good plant in your head where it's like subconsciously.
You're still building the world. So you're still like, oh, these are the characters we're following.
Right.
These are the characters we kind of trust. And we're building from there.
Yeah. And it's like, you're not like thinking, oh, the first 2 characters are going to be the very like, they all important?
I was about to say, I think it's the same as the poster that said the killer is on the poster.
Oh, it's so good.
Where it's like, by the way, I want to look at that poster now and be like, look, there they are.
They are. And they're both on the same side, I think.
Ooh, shady. I remembered what I was going to say. Sorry that I do this all the time.
Towards the end.
But you were saying earlier with the killers, you were like, oh yeah, it shows when they said they don't have a reason. You were like, oh, it just shows that anybody can kind of snap and do that. And I was like, also, statistically, you're more likely to get killed by somebody close to you than you are by a stranger. So I'm like, it also shows a lot of that shit.
And I think that's what strains. So in all the Screams that we've watched so far, I think what the first film did so well, and it's going to be my first complaint about this movie.
Oh.
The first movie introduces all of these characters, but they're all naturally involved with each other.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a part of a franchise. You're literally they are the heroes. The story's about them because they are the heroes. Yeah. It's not that they are the heroes because the story needs to be about them. I know that sounds like basically the same thing, but there's essentially...
a slight difference.
The difference is you're following them because it just happened to happen to this specific group. So you have this group of people from Tatum to Sydney Prescott, Billy, Stu, and then Randy, and they're just all naturally friends, period.
Yeah. And
the main hero is involved in that group. So you're naturally getting a lot of scenes of back and forth with these characters. So by the time the movie ends, even though it is a slasher in a lot of ways, you feel like you know these characters a little bit more. Ever since the sequels, where they have to like introduce more and more groups of people to be like, they're not introducing more characters, but they're
introducing more people, and they're also imposing these people into
Cindy's world
because it's like...
Did you call her Cindy?
It's
scary movie.
Oh, is that why I have such trouble with that?
Yes, and you also kept calling Dewey Doofy as we're watching.
I can't take him seriously. He's so doofy.
Because all you ever saw was Doofy first, and not the screams.
But I get why they named the character Doofy and made him the way he was, because Dewey is not the best cop in the world. He's a survivor and he's adorable, but
I know
he's not the strongest cop. Anyway, especially not in the first movie.
So you're saying they're imposing these characters onto Sydney's life?
Adding them into Sydney's life, which gives you less of that. Because I was like, even because I was wondering why I suspected the boyfriend so quickly in this one. Aside from the fact that I was just like, it was a boyfriend in the first one. Yeah, I've been waiting for them to
do it again.
So I keep saying it, and I'm like, it's going to be true at some point. But it also like when he was like, oh, I've known her for 6 months, whereas like Billy
was
and
involved in her
Cindy,
life.
Yeah, they were in each other's lives, and not even just like, I don't know how long they had been dating. I don't know if you remember that, but like they
over a year at least.
Over a year.
Because they were together before her mom got murdered in the first one.
Yeah.
And then he decides to go, yeah, I got over my mom leaving. Like, can you get over your mom dying?
That was the worst. But yeah, so that's already a year right there. But that's not to mention the fact that they're in a small town. So not only have they grown up together, they've grown up in close relation with each other.
Whereas like every sequel since,
together,
it's always been
that.
like,
yeah, it's
oh,
people
here are
that
new
have grown
characters
together.
Yeah.
And it's like, why do we trust these people that much?
And you don't get a lot of time to really see how they interact off of each other.
Yeah.
So this movie, I will say, my two standouts were definitely, let's see if I can get them, were Jasmine Savoy Brown as Mindy Meeks, who is
the know-it-all character, or the movie
character. Buff. And then she's twins with, what is his?
Netflix guy.
Netflix guy. I don't think he's
been on teen drama guy.
Mason Gooding, which, what is he from? No shit. Mason Gooding is the son of Cuba Gooding Jr.
No way.
Yeah, he looks.
Oh,
and he was in Booksmart.
See it now. Yeah,
he was the hot guy in Booksmart.
And
he was in Love Victor. Did you watch that, right?
Love Victor, yes. I was like, I know him from things. I guess he's Hulu guy then.
Yeah.
My bad.
So out of all the new characters, those twins, I think they have the strongest like impact in terms of, oh, here are new characters that we actually care about.
Yeah.
But even them, there's not a lot of characterization to these characters, but because they're imposed, because even with Sam, who is the sister who left, prior to the movie happening, she had left town because you find out that, you know,
we find out that her dad made her want to leave town,
right?
For whatever reason. We'll get there.
So
y'all already know.
I know if you're watching
this. Spoiler point, because her dad's Billy Loomis. Moving on.
So Sam, who's our main character, she's left town.
Yeah.
You find out later because Billy Loomis was her bastard father, or she's the bastard, whatever.
Bastard child.
And she left her younger sister back home in Woodsboro.
Rude.
And so she comes back in town. Of course, there's a throwaway line that she tells her boyfriend, Richie, oh, these were kids I used to babysit. But they didn't, it was literally just they're only together just for plot reasons. Versus like the first movie, all these characters are just naturally together. Like, oh, there's a killer on the loose. We're just going to hang out and protect each other.
Yeah, exactly. We're gonna hang out like we always do because why not keep hanging out? We're safer in numbers, and I trust all of you.
Yeah, and so you get more scenes of like back and forth versus this one. It's like you'll check in with the sister, our main character Sam, and then you'll check in every once in a while with the new characters.
Yeah,
all good actors.
Yeah,
but you don't get as much of like the interpersonal.
Yeah, and I will say too, it's harder because this is the fifth movie. This is the fifth movie, and at this point, I mean, we personally don't trust anybody that's not Sydney.
She's so bad.
We don't trust anybody that's not Sydney, Doofy, or Courtney Cox.
Oh my gosh.
We don't trust any of them.
No.
Not one of those names was right. We don't trust anybody that's not them.
Right.
So anybody else that comes in is like, we're not there for it. So we have like the inherent trust that they had in the first movie that we came in on and we're like, okay, we trust everyone. They trust each other. But then coming into this one, even all these friends who have more or less, as far as we know, been friends for a very long time.
Yeah.
All immediately like, we know about this too. We've heard about it. We've watched the stab movies.
Yeah.
And we know that one of us is the killer, and they immediately start blaming each other.
Yeah, it's not as...
And they kind of like, and even though they were like, oh, are you the killer in the first one? You could tell it was more like how you would accuse a friend of being like, are you the killer? But they don't actually believe it. Where they're like, it's possible, but also you're not the killer.
Right.
Whereas like this one, you could tell that every time they accused each other, there was a lot more of them that believed that that person was probably the killer.
And so it kind of, not only does it keep us at a distance, but you don't get to know these characters as anything other than potential suspects.
This being said, we did like it, and we do think they did well.
I think they did about as well. So I think this is the best sequel that you could have ended up doing without Wes Anderson. Oh my God. Wes Craven.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, it is the best sequel, without Wes Anderson, and also without Wes Craven, who unfortunately died, years ago. And I think it is a solid addition, especially being like starting off with new people, but also bringing in legacy characters. I think it does a phenomenal job at that.
It married the worlds very, very well. Because I will say, even with things I watch where I'm not a fan and I'm not fully invested in the characters, I've watched them try to kind of usher in a new generation like that, and it's just kind of like, ew, like what are you doing?
Yeah.
So, but this one, it was very natural. I said when we watched it the first time at the end, I was like, I would absolutely watch a Scream 6 with all of these new characters.
The ones who survived.
Fully enjoy it, yes.
the I think the twins survived, and then Sam, well, yeah, so the two sets of siblings survived.
That's
family
cute.
wins in the end.
Yeah, good job on that.
I thought that was cute. And the twins.
I mean, aside from Wes and his mom, that family did not survive.
That was, okay. We'll get there because so at the beginning, so Sam comes back into town. She's called back in. We do have like the meeting of these new characters. They're not sitting around the fountain like they were in the first movie. They're sitting around picnic tables. And we're introduced to one of our killers, who is, we said it already, Mikey Madsen. She
is
5 foot
2 to 3-ish. There's not a set height.
She looks
on Google
as tiny as a twig.
She's probably
beautiful,
like 95 pounds soaking wet. Like she is like she's not a big person.
And I want to meet, because I think there's so much done in this film that is just so well done. But I want to meet the directors and be like, look, I need you to tell me to my face, why the fuck was Ghostface? Because we rewatched it to like, I was tracking when
it was her and
when it was like
supposedly
either of the ghost faces. It was a lot easier in this film than it was in the original Scream to kind of pick who was who in the costume.
True.
Because in this one, it was very clear, like the boyfriend would be out of costume and then there would be Ghostface.
Yeah.
And then,
or we would know that, oh, the boyfriend's in the car driving right now, so this is her. Or you would know that it
was very clear to tell who was in the costume. And it was also very clear to tell that who was in the costume technically was like a 6 foot tall motherfucker.
Yeah. And I will say, I think they did have one person who was 6 foot-ish and one person who was probably like 5'8" to 5'10".
Really?
Because it looked like in the ones that were supposed to be her, the person was slightly shorter. Like the person, so like the one when what's his face got killed, Dewey got killed.
Spoiler alert.
No, they know what happened.
Continue.
When he got killed,
she did look a little shorter.
Ghostface was about his height, like exactly.
Except she still picked him up.
Well, no. I'm saying he was but he's 5'10".
Yeah.
So that's still way too tall.
Right.
And the boots she was wearing were normal. They were like just normal.
You
like,
saw
boots.
her in the boots outside of the costume.
That's what I'm saying. So
Tiny
I'm
as
like,
fuck.
we saw her when she took it off, and she was still shorter than Prescott. She was shorter than Prescott. So
that's funny.
so the boots weren't adding lifts, which was one of my theories. I was like, well, maybe she was wearing boots that had lifts in them. No. Like she was not 5'10", and that was like the short one was around 5'10" because she was the same height.
Yeah, and I want to like
Arquette.
look at the two directors and ask and be like, point blank, just tell me you just said you didn't give a fuck. Like, just say it. Just say you didn't give a fuck.
Exactly.
They'll shrug and go, yeah.
Yeah, because it's like, obviously they've done that before. Like, they did it in 4.
4 was the most egregious.
4, where it was Emma Roberts, and she like...
And Kieran and Rory Culkin.
Yeah.
Both are
but I'm like, at least he's like a dude. Like, so it's like... But I'm saying, like, with like a girl that's like 5 foot... under 5'5", you know, and very slender, like you can feel when they're attacking you that there's not gonna be that weight behind it.
Yeah, you'd be
like a guy who's like 200 pounds.
And somehow these they've studied Krav Maga or something where they're able to like toss and like juck and
throw
jive
people around and do all this stuff. And like, how many times did they catch the killer's wrist?
Uh-huh.
Like, how would you not feel the difference between a female wrist and a male wrist? Like, there's a big difference there between a 6 foot man and a 5 foot woman in their wrist. I would hope.
But I will say something I really appreciate about this film out of all of the films. So it's weird when this entire series up until this movie has felt very kind of in the family. You've had the same director for the first 4 films. You had the same 3 leads for the first 4 films. More or less the same writer, except for the third movie. It was written by Aaron Kruger as opposed to Kevin Williamson, who created Dawson's Creek. Is that the theme song of Dawson's Creek?
Yes.
So you've had a consistency with these films. So you're the new kids on the block. You have to shoot a film. I think they did a really good job of kind of not only aping Wes's style cinematically,
Aping it?
Like copying it and kind of kind of sliding in there and matching it, but also doing it a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I appreciate is like this film was more, doesn't mean it's better or worse. But especially compared to the fourth film, it was more cinematic in terms of like, it was like a wide, what CinemaScope, the shots just felt a lot more epic. Like Ghostface himself was terrifying in this movie.
Yeah.
When he the first shot and it was great because they balanced like his goofiness.
Mm-hmm.
Literally the first thing you see, he like swipes at her and she kicks him in the head.
Yeah, and then he falls and hits his head.
And I think they did a good job of blending like the
menacing murderer with the klutzy teenager.
Yeah, and it worked. I think that's what's always been fascinating about Ghostface is like he's could be anybody, but it also means that he could be anyone.
Yeah.
And he can get kicked around. He's a human being. But there's that shot where she kicks him like right as he's about to actually like you think kill her. And then he stands up and it's in slow motion and like the score builds a little bit. And it's just like there's nothing fascinating about how it's composed outside of the fact that you can tell these directors, they're new directors coming in, and more so than Wes, whatever, they're revering it. It's like...
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And it's the new sense of legacy filmmaking that even the film comments on, where it's like, with the Ghostbuster Afterlife, which we saw, with Force Awakens, with Halloween...
All these things that respect the source material.
And they kind of elevate these moments. They're like, you know that we know that these are like specific things that like the original filmmakers, they just threw in there. They weren't, and this can either be for good or worse. Like it gets mileage out of a lot of people when they saw Ghostbusters, specifically Ghostbusters, because it's like, it was never really a sentimental saga. Like the first two movies are just like dumb, just like blue collar comedies.
Ghosts, yeah.
And then this fourth one comes out on the heels of the other film, Ghostbusters 2016, which arguably fits the tone of the original films better than the new one did, because the new one like comes in with this like this awe and this reverence, and it's like, oh, this is like the Ghost Finder thing. Oh, these are the proton packs. Like, ooh, you can tell like the lingering camera shots. Like, it's very much like Force Awakens meets Ghostbusters.
Yeah,
and to a degree, this one kind of has the same feeling where it's like the lingering shots, the epic reveals. They're like, these are the characters. Ooh, Courtney Cox is coming back.
But you get a bunch of, you can tell that it's made by people who actually care about what they're doing and actually have a passion for the movie, unlike when you get a Last Airbender type movie where the director says, my kid likes it, so I made a movie about it.
Oh, and get out of here.
Like, don't make it if you don't care about it.
Yeah,
you know?
well, these guys, you can definitely, I mean, I'm pretty sure they've said that this is one of like their all-time favorite series, and that Wes Craven.
Wow.
I've never done this before. Wes Craven was a filmmaker who inspired them to make movies. And you can tell, and I think it does a good balance of blending kind of the reverence, but also being like, okay, we're going to forge ahead. We're going to make a new thing. Yeah. So you get these new characters. You also get, what is his name? Kyle Gallner. I don't recognize him, but apparently he was in Smallville, the remake of Nightmare on Elm Street, Jennifer's Body. Who was he in Jennifer's Body?
Was he Craig? What's up, Craig? What up?
It might have been.
I don't know.
He ends up being Stu Macher's like cousin or something. But they build up. You said it yourself. What did you say? The guy who gets stabbed in the neck.
Yeah, no, he was kind of pointless.
They like build him up.
Yeah, like he's gonna be something, and he was just like, he was there for 4 seconds just to get killed. Like he absolutely did not need to be there. And then I was like, I guess he was just there literally because when your cousin or sister, I don't remember who had said it, but said that he's a big person in like horror, like people know him from a lot of horror stuff. So I was like, oh, so they clearly, because he was like on the poster, right?
Yeah.
And he's only in the first like 5 to 10 minutes of the
movie. Barely has any.
He's in like 2 scenes.
Yeah.
So 3. So I'm like, what did we need him for? And I'm like, oh, probably because that's another suspect that we can have.
Yeah.
Of like, oh, like I know him from stuff. He has to be the killer.
Exactly. So what ends up happening is sister, boyfriend come back. They're, she's reunited with her sister. Simultaneously, Stu Macher's cousin gets killed while the new group of kids are at a bar and they're discussing like, ooh, who's the possible suspects? And they're all like pointing the finger at each other. And like you said, yeah, you get the feeling like, do you guys actually like each other?
Yeah.
Like,
it doesn't feel like there's a deep inherent trust between really any of them.
No, which may be a different generation.
Maybe. But I will say, absolutely, I felt like the girlfriend character, the Cubican Jr.'s son's girlfriend, Liv. I did not like her at all.
She's weird.
She's such like that was like I felt shoehorned in character just to fill out the roster and have somebody else to suspect.
Oh, she absolutely would come into scenes like, red herring school number 1, where she would like jump in and be like, here's my excuse for why I was gone, and then like look at you like,
do you suspect me? And we're like,
no, bitch.
Like, I don't.
Get out of here.
Go away. Honestly, I would have been more impressed if she was the killer.
Right.
Just because of the fact that she had no reason to be there.
I know.
Like, I'm not like, give her something to do. Like, it was like exactly like the sister said, where
too boring.
The twin sisters, she was like, you're too boring to be the killer. And it's like, yeah, apparently she was. Like, if you had taken her part out, what would have changed about the movie?
You would probably guessed who the real killer was instantly.
I never suspected her though.
You never suspected the other girl?
No, the girlfriend Liv. She was just I was like,
no, I meant you would have. Okay, I see what you mean.
I already suspected the boyfriend.
So they come back in town. Oh, so that death with the kind of the, what is he like he's not a bum. He's just kind of like a drunk like the town bad boy.
No, he's just like the town bad boy.
Yeah,
he's
so
not really.
He gets stabbed, which I really love that scene because that song that plays on the radio of his car, Red Right Hand, that was featured in the first 3 films, wasn't in the 4th one.
What's that song about?
I don't know. I've never.
It's about masturbation.
Okay,
that's
really bloody masturbation. Gross.
Red right because it gets Rosie Palm.
Oh, okay. So he gets killed to that song. That was a really awesome scene. Also, the theater laughed at like how simple his death was.
Yeah, because it just like gives him a click in the neck and he's just dead. And you're like, well, that was the easiest kill I've ever seen on TV. Like, that was crazy.
Simultaneously, back in the hospital, Sam, the older sister, she reconnects with her sister. Her boyfriend's like, oh, I'm watching the Scream movies or the Stab movies now. Whoa,
I immediately thought that was suspicious. Well, when he said that, I was like, what are you, a fucking psycho? And I was like, oh, I guess he's just trying to brush up on what's going on. But I was like, I'm watching you, man.
So she goes into the other room, and then I don't know how I feel about this part of the movie. So we introduce the fact that, yes, as we've said, Sam's father, not Tara's father, Sam's father, is Billy Loomis, the killer from the first movie.
Yes.
And she's seeing him as a ghost. Now, if it had just been Scream 1, 2, and 4, I would have been like, this is dumb and I hate this. Because the Scream movies more or less have always been kind of rooted in reality, where it's like, even though it's outlandish, it's still always like all the horror is based in human beings putting on a mask and doing human stuff.
Yeah.
The third movie introduced Sydney seeing her mother in like visions, and I thought that was the dumbest shit ever.
But like none of that's all hallucinations though. That's not supernatural.
I know it's not supernatural.
Kind of supernaturally, but it's still very much that bitch has been people have tried to kill her like 1,000 times. Like,
I know.
She's tripping at this point. Like, yeah, she sees her dead mother. Like,
it just kind of rings as like, it's kind of like throwing everything in the kitchen sink into a horror movie where it's like, which is fine if it's the first film because you're like, oh, these are the rules of this universe. But like the first and the second movie had no supernatural elements whatsoever.
I just never viewed it as supernatural because she also, I don't think at any point said that her mom was haunting her. She never said like, oh, I saw her ghost.
But it's like the scenes are more involved. I think this one did a better job where it's like she's seeing and she's commenting at this vision of Billy Loomis, but he's not like involved in the mechanics of the scares.
No, he's very much clearly a hallucination.
Whereas in the third movie, her mom is like, she's literally, even to the point where Ghostface himself puts on the rag when her brother, her actual half brother, reveals himself as the Ghostface in the third movie. He's like wearing the rag that she's seeing in visions. I'm like, so are you seeing visions of your dead mom as well?
I will say that's just more of a shitty taunt.
I know, but how would he know that that's what it's
No,
movie
it's-
logic where it's like, oh,
no,
I bet
it's-
in the last 20 hours she's been
it's-
haunted by her mom.
It's not movie logic. Like, your mom was murdered. You saw the bloody rags that she was under when you came home after she got murdered. So you're like, hey, remember when your mom died? And you throw on the rag. That was just the last thing you saw about your mother.
I know, but it's,
like, it's not. It doesn't. It's not a guess. It's like this'll fuck with her.
it just feels like it felt out of left field in that universe.
And she also had gone in that room on set.
That's true.
And seen the rag.
I still think
so
it's dumb.
So it was a double callback.
Sydney.
That was dumb.
Sydney. I'm like, get out of here.
Yeah,
She doesn't like whatever.
It was
Whatever.
Weird. It was anyways, it was creepy.
So
But
this movie introduces Billy Loomis's kind of hallucination. My initial instinct was, but then I was like, whatever. The third movie already did it worse. Like at this point, it's like this is a much better version of it.
I was only hesitant because I was gonna be really annoyed if they made her crazy.
Yeah,
like if they were gonna be
that.
all like, oh yeah, it was me and I didn't realize it, or if she was like, oh, like it just if something snapped in her or something like that. I was like, or if she did the stupid thing that I hate from Riverdale.
What is it?
With
oh no,
Betty and her fucking dark side. I explained this to Rizzo recently. If you haven't seen it, there's just like from the first episode of Riverdale, there's one scene where Betty and Veronica are seducing these two guys, and Betty's like, "Oh no, I can't do this," and Veronica's like, "Just pretend that you're someone else." So she puts on a black wig. Betty puts on a black wig and just starts being extra sexual, and then takes it a little bit too far. And she goes, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry. I have a dark side."
Oh my god.
And then she never stopped saying it for fucking 5 seasons now.
Yeah.
And then the second season was all about a murderer, and they were trying to figure out who the murderer was. And she was like, "I think it's me because I have a dark side." And I'm like, shut up,
Betty. Nobody cares.
Nobody cares about your dark side.
Get out. Yeah,
So
I was gonna be super
I was
mad.
gonna be super annoyed if they did that to her, but they didn't.
No. So she has a conversation with Billy Loomis. Now you're like, oh, okay, this is clearly where they're going with this. That's the secret. And then Ghostface calls her, which at this point, I'm pretty sure that would have been her boyfriend. He would have snuck, which, by the way, the superpowers of being Ghostface are, first off, somehow you grow to be 6 foot tall. You get superhuman strength.
Yes.
You are uncannily able to dress in and out of the costume
very quickly
at superhuman speeds.
And hide the costume.
Bruises, nowhere to be seen. What else? Nobody ever hears your voice.
And while you're using the voice changer,
Which, by the way, that one of the coolest shots for me in the movie is fast forwarding when they're in the hospital and he's like chasing after. Well, he's slowly stalking Tara, and he gets a phone call and he switches.
I told you.
What?
I said that. Remember we were talking.
Oh yeah,
about
you
it?
did.
And I was like, in this one, because I was like, I'm surprised they haven't done it because we were watching 4.
Right.
And I was like, I'm surprised they haven't done this yet, but I'm sure they will.
And
do
what
it.
is
This next
this?
one is that they're gonna have the voice changer incorporated into the mask.
Right.
So that they can just talk straight from the mask. And I was like, I don't know why they would have. 2011, you could have done it, but I was like, at 2022, you need to be able to put that freaking voice changer in the mask.
Well, technically in 2000 and I can't remember when the third one came out, 2001 or 2000. That's when they had a voice changer that could mimic everybody's voice, which was bullshit.
My gosh. I don't know how they got everybody's voice in those anyways.
So dumb. But I love the shot where like it just is a close up, and this is another one of those kind of like shots where you can tell the directors are like they're like it's just very cinematic where he clicks the thing and you hear the wind up for the voice changer to turn on and you hear a little breathing, and I'm like, this is basically like the Ghostface is our Darth Vader type shot. And it's really eerie, really cool, very cinematic, very much like this is a legacy sequel where it's like we're really cementing what makes these films. And I thought that was cool. However, it's still bullshit that you can't hear their actual voice.
Yeah.
Because that's so dumb.
And still bullshit that she wasn't 5'2". Because that was her in that scene.
So back to the scene. They're in the hospital. She gets a call from Ghostface. Ghostface jumps out, stabs at the chair that she's like trying to protect herself with. Cops nowhere to be seen. No one ever to be seen in these hospitals.
The cops in this series are completely useless.
He does a little movement. The Asian cop when he's just like
when he first goes when she's like he's trying to kill me and he like throws his gun up and it's like oh god oh I'm not ready for this.
I don't know if you know. Well, you obviously noticed it's so apparent now, but like the scene after when they're like, oh, I was just attacked, it's literally the two killers and the two heroes in the same hospital scene.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
I thought this film did a really good job of having all the main characters in the same room without you noticing.
Yeah.
And I think the first film did that really well. This one, it's not as good because, once again, it still doesn't have that natural connection.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, you have characters pretending not to know each other, which I don't know why. Like, it's not an issue. I'm not complaining at the script.
You ain't complaining.
But it's not as, like, cool as, like, when Billy and Stu are, I don't know if you remember because it's been a while.
In the first scene where they're talking about the killer.
Yes.
That one was one when I watched it back the second time. I was like, they are fully trying not to incriminate themselves. And what's the other one's name? Not Billy. Stu fully like is admitting what they did.
Right.
And Billy literally, it cuts to him like giving him like a dude shut the fuck
right.
up look.
Which is
and
why that first movie works.
Like when you watch it again, you're like, they're so guilty.
Yeah. So the first movie has, because since the first movie, you have the second movie, which is the villain is Timothy Olyphant, Mickey, who does interact with Sydney, and then Debbie Salt, who's Billy Loomis's mother. But those two never interact. So Mickey and Debbie never interact until the very end. And Sydney never interacts with Billy Loomis's mom. She just goes, Billy Loomis's mom. Movie doesn't even introduce the fact that she's still alive or cares.
I like he said, Billy Loomis's mom.
Mrs. Loomis. The third movie, Roman Bridger. Dude doesn't even, like, it's so funny when he reveals himself to Sydney. She's not even interacted with this guy whatsoever. She and the audience both kind of give like a, okay, who the fuck are you? And he's like, Roman Bridger, the director. And you're just like, cool.
Director, awesome.
Great. I wasn't involved in this movie for the first 40 minutes. Like, who the hell are you? The fourth movie, obviously Jill and so Emma Roberts and Sydney, they interact a lot.
Yeah, because they're cousins.
Which that was a great.
That's good. I did not suspect her. I would be interested to watch it again because we just watched it for the first time.
Yeah. Well, you just watched it for the first time.
Yeah, but you were there. But yeah, I would be interested to watch it again and see what clues, because it is fun to watch these movies a second time.
Yeah.
And see what clues
are
they
there.
Give.
And so that one was good. That one kind of. What's interesting about the 2011 Scream 4 is that they clearly, like, when the marketing was, like, advertising it, they were very clearly being like, oh, obviously legacy characters are returning, but Jill, here's our new Sidney Prescott. And just like how they did a bait and switch with Drew Barrymore, like, oh, here's our main character. Just kidding, she dies at the beginning of the movie. They kind of did it with Jill Roberts, where it's like, oh, here's Emma Roberts. She's up and comer. She's Sydney's cousin.
Yeah.
She's not going to be the killer. And she's the new Sydney. Might as well be. And they have so many scenes together where it's like, I know what you're going through. Like, I actually was kind of wondering during this film, I was like, Sydney, why are you trusting that Sam's not the killer?
Yeah, like when your own cousin was the one that did it last time.
You kidding me?
Yeah.
So I think that was a very clever bait and switch. And the thing about the Scream series is, like, they are kind of ahead of the curve.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the fourth movie was very clearly leaning into that, like, that TikTok, streamer, influencer energy, which was not that huge at 2011.
No.
So, and it almost to the point where it's not been till years later where people are looking back and like, you know, Scream 4 was very clever. And those of us who liked it when it first came out are like, yeah, we know. It was really good.
That's funny.
And the first movie was like one of the first times things were really meta and commentated on, and now every film does that.
And it's getting so meta. This movie.
Oh my God!
If
I know what you're about to say.
Had a meta, that's this movie.
This movie is what The Matrix Resurrections was trying to be.
Exactly. It was very much, but like could not get there
at
all. And that's sad because the original directors came back and did
For Matrix. You're talking
Matrix, and like this was made so much better with somebody who just has like an honor for it.
Also, it's because, and here's the thing, I think this film does really well. It carries the tone of the first movie on, and like it gets back to this, and this is something I said to you as we left the theater. I think this film has an emotional consistency that is great, where you have characters who are like lighthearted 1 second, and then you can still tell that they're not like, and this is the issue I always have with Marvel things, and I'm not going to rag on Marvel, but it's like, you know, you'll have characters who are villains, but then the next scene they're like best friends with someone, and they're like making jokes and like,
and you're supposed to like laugh with them.
You're supposed to laugh.
You just destroyed City Hall.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Or then you have characters like Thor, which he, you know, I think Chris Hemsworth does a good job of kind of carrying the weight, but it really depends on what movie he's in and what director is directing him, because sometimes he's just throwing jokes around. You're like, dude, your whole family just died. Like, let's not. This movie did a great job of like towing the line of like, it's a comedy, but you could still tell, especially with Courtney Cox. I thought she did a phenomenal job. Yeah, I would even call her like Well, I'm going to say Dewey was the MVP, but I would say like her, I was very impressed with just how she kind of balanced still being bitchy Gale Weathers, still being friend Gale Weathers, but then also being brokenhearted Gale Weathers.
Morning Gale Weathers.
And morning Gale Weathers?
Not Morning Gale, who was on the TV show.
Not her. So hospital happens. Killers are in the room. It was you. Spider-Man pointing.
Yeah.
And then
that was fun. That was a clever thing to watch again. And you're like, oh, they're like pointing each other out.
So it's cool. They basically, I did all that to say, because Jill in the fourth one, I don't think she really interacts with the Culkin at all.
And I will say, no, I don't think so.
And I just hate that. I like seeing the dynamic of the killers before they're revealed, and then watching them after.
Yeah.
I still think the first movie does it best because they don't change at all.
Yeah.
They don't have any crazy talk.
Yeah.
I mean, Matthew Lillard is crazy, but he's not really doing anything different.
He's just, his crazy is focused in a different direction than it was before.
It's just like you have different information, and so he's giving almost the same performance, but now you're viewing it different.
Yeah.
Versus even in this one, when they reveal themselves, it's like you notice they do the switch of like, oh, now it's time for the acting scene where I act like Heath Ledger's killer, and I'm like, ooh, yeah, look how crazy.
Look
and you're like,
me, we're crazy.
But I like that they interacted a lot more in this one, and
with
the film
each other.
it made more of an effort to be like, put the killers and the heroes in the same room interacting off of each other. So it wasn't just like a Roman Bridger. I'm the director.
Yeah, and you're like, who?
The fuck are you?
I do like the fact that I think pretty much everybody was accused at one point.
Yes.
And like, because I was kind of...
Even Sydney, technically.
Yeah, yes, and I was really watching. I was like, I wonder if it's going to be like, it's going to be something where they're throwing the focus to where they're like, we're going to blame everybody, and the one person we don't blame is going to be the killer. And I was kind of thinking that with 13 Reasons Why kid. Wes.
Oh, Dylan Minnette?
I was thinking I was like, he might be the unsuspecting one that we think, oh, he's an innocent little kid.
Yeah.
And nobody's going to suspect him, and we're not going to blame him. And he's going to fall kind of in the background because he doesn't talk a lot. And we're not going to realize later on that nobody ever accused him. And he was the killer the whole time.
Yep.
But then immediately David Arquette's like, who are you? What are you?
Why are you? My God.
Yeah.
So,
and I was like, okay.
Before we get to that scene, so then they're like, oh, we got to find somebody to help us. And they go to David Arquette and they do
Whose idea was that, by the way?
Whose?
I was thinking about that.
He said, so the boyfriend, so this is after Sam was attacked in the hospital. The cops are like, get out of town because she has a past. So long story short, well, no, we haven't revealed that part yet. So actually, no, we have.
Something.
I don't remember at what point she tells her sister, hey, my dad was a serial killer. And the sister's like, fuck you, get out of here. So it's like her sister's not helping. The cops aren't helping. So then the boyfriend, he doesn't say, let's go get Dewey. He just says, what's our next move? And she's the one that suggests,
let's go get someone who knows what's going on.
And then we get introduced to David Arquette as Dewey once again, he's not a deputy. He's not a sheriff.
He is not nothing. And he's got a bunch of pictures of dogs on his refrigerator.
I love that was I'm like pointing at the screen because it shows Tatum's like ashes. And I was like, that's the cutest thing. And then you go, why? Whose dogs are those?
I was like, there was 10 pictures of random dogs.
Yeah, they weren't the same dog.
And it wasn't pictures printed off the internet. These are pictures that he took. Like, these are pictures someone took around.
That's funny.
Of people's dogs. And I was like, is he like a dog sitter now? Is that what he does for money?
I don't know. So he's apparently
Super
a drunk.
random.
He's been forcibly retired. He is your favorite thing, divorced from his love.
You know, I was annoyed about it at first, but it fits the tone of the show.
Here's the thing.
I was annoyed just because,
what are you going to say?
I was annoyed because I was annoyed. I'm going to keep saying that. I told you originally, like when we hit the third movie, I was like, are they ever just gonna be together at the beginning of a movie? Because they literally break up. They spend the whole movie realizing they like each other and then get together, and they're so happy at the end of each movie. And then up until the fourth one, it literally every movie starts with them being like, yeah, but over the last however long, we realized we don't like each other, we're not together. And then they like each other and are together at the end, and then they're not together. So it was literally only the fourth one that they're finally together.
But
at
even
the
then,
beginning of a movie.
Yeah.
And I was like, bro, finally they did it. They're married. They stayed together.
I know.
Let's keep that. And then this one, they're like, surprise, back to the OG. We're not together, but we're going to realize we like each other.
So they did the thing with Dewey that everyone hated with Luke Skywalker, which in The Last Jedi, which is like you bum him up, you have him kind of like a hermit, basically angry, just kind of disconnected from reality. But damn it, if David Arquette doesn't fucking sell that shit so well.
It works for him because of all the shit that he's been through.
And he does a good job. I think this is my favorite movie with Dewey because there's just like a playful sadness that is like, I think he hits so well. He has some of the funniest lines in the movie, but also some of the sad, like it's hard, like watching him, especially as I can't say how well he sells the fact that he's this kind of down on his luck, but still kind of like optimistic person. As he's trying to text Gale.
Oh my God.
And he goes, Ghostface is back. Don't come to town. Also, hope you've been doing well. Smiley face.
Oh
and then
God.
He types, I still.
So sad. And I think somebody next to us, the first viewing was like, what? And I was like, what do you mean, what? He's going to say, I still love you, you loser.
You dick.
Like,
Clearly you've never
loved someone.
You've never been in love? Like,
God, you never started a text and had to delete it because it's simping too hard?
I think if I would have seen this as a kid, I would have been like, what? True love doesn't exist? And it's only growing up and understanding that
it doesn't.
That real life doesn't work out like that. But I think there's something really poignant that was said in this film that not only feels meta, but not in an accidental meta. But Courtney Cox, Gale Weathers, literally says at the end, spoiler, obviously Dewey dies, she says, you killed my best friend. And there's something about that just hit me so hard where it's like, maybe they were never meant to be married, but they always
were meant to be in each other's lives.
They were always like, they loved each other in a way that was like, you could tell she always trusted him and he at least trusted her. And that's the thing I loved about this series. And I think, pretty sure you grew to love too. It's like, you have these three main characters and
they've gone through so much shit. They should never trust anybody in their lives, but
themselves.
They trust each other. And it's like, and they never question each other ever.
No.
Not for a second do they ever go, wait, past maybe the first one. The first one, I'm sure they looked at each other.
Well, yeah, because Gale Weathers
sideways.
was a shithead.
Yeah, but after that, they always, anytime they see each other, like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Because it's like, that's their family right there. Honestly, beyond anyone, I'm sure that Sydney would be less surprised if the husband that she's married to in this one ended up being a Ghostface killer.
Sure, yeah, of course.
She'd be less surprised
by that. She's like, I had a plan for this.
Right? And she would be less surprised by that than if it was Gale or Dewey.
And I think what works, talking about emotional consistency, over the 3 films, even over the 5 films, even the third one, you have these 3 characters, which like there's no way that they should work together, but the writing works so well that every time they're together, it never feels like they've changed characters. It never feels like, oh, now Gale's nice Gale, and she's just like completely switched who she was.
No, she's
to be
always
friends. There's always like an uneasiness, especially between Gale and Sydney.
I think I got it right a second ago, though.
So it's like clear, like she did start it. She wrote the book. She very clearly accused her of being a liar when she was a teenager, which is shitty as fuck.
But she's a reporter.
But she is a reporter. She's still merciless every single film.
Yeah.
But the amount of like almost kind of like a begrudgingly aunt / best friend like care that she has for Sydney.
Yeah.
And the fact that respect that Sydney has for Gale, and then the fact that, oh my God, it just melts my heart every time. Every time Dewey and Sydney meet up in each film, she always says Dewey with the biggest goddamn smile.
Yeah.
And it gets bigger each film.
Yeah.
And it's just so sweet where it's like, I will never not trust you.
It's adorable, but thinking about it realistically, I'm hoping that they keep in contact between the movies.
Yeah.
Because think about it. If your best friend, the person, sweetest person you could ever hope, but every time you see them, everyone you know is getting murdered and they're trying to kill you. The person that's closest to you that you trust is trying to kill you. I'd be traumatized by that person's face. Every time I saw them, I'd be like, Dewey, what the fuck? Why are you here? Like, no, I trust you. I know it's not you, but get out of my face.
Right, get out of here.
You're causing trouble, man.
No, I think usually in films when you have like a kind of a sibling relationship, not a faux sibling relationship, but kind of like a
camaraderie,
spiritual sibling relationship, I'm always kind of like uncomfortable by it. I'm like, all right, are you guys into each other? Y'all trying to have sex? But it really feels like there's this spiritual substitute of like, he lost Tatum, but by extension, he's never going to lose Sydney, and he's
Yeah.
going to do everything he can to protect her. And it feels so genuine, and David Arquette just sells that role so well.
Absolutely.
So they go to him. He says no at first, but as every good script, does, you have the rejection and then you have the acceptance. So then they go to the Meeks house, where then we have the rules laid out.
And let me tell you that Mindy,
she's
I had it. Okay, so Mindy, the female twin, lays these rules out so beautifully that I couldn't help but love her. And I
she's
was
great.
hoping that she wasn't the killer because she was so into it. I was like, you're having a great time and you're explaining this and making this so much fun for me to watch. I really hope you're not the killer, but how into this you are tells me that you are the killer.
I know.
But also, which they immediately call out, of course. They every time, and I think they did a great job of this, every time you go, ooh, wait, are you the killer? Somebody in the room goes, so it's you. Like every time. So I don't know. I just had so much fun with her that I wanted to like her immediately.
She's great.
And that is one thing that I love about the franchise, the Scream in general, all of them, is the fact that they really tell you exactly what's going on every time.
Yeah.
You can't be confused because it's like, it must be fun to direct those because you get to literally put in dialogue what you're doing and have a character just geek out on what you've done in the movie.
Yeah.
So it's like it kind of explains itself and it kind of insists upon itself, but in a good way.
Yes.
Where it's like, and it's fun because it's like, I mean, I don't have to think too much. I'm just like, this is what is happening. And it confirms kind of what I'm already thinking / like gives me a heads up of, okay, this is what I got to watch out for.
So this scene happens. She rants on that this is requels. It's basically like what we just said. You're not rebooting it, but you're not making a direct sequel to it. You're basically telling the same story, but also including legacy characters.
To
so
give
that
it
way,
validity, and then you also add new characters to
continue the story on. And the reasoning is, she said the last Stab movie that came out, Stab is the gross adaptation of a real life murder scene. Just imagine if we got as psyched for a Columbine movie as these characters get psyched for a Stab movie. It's like
so
people died.
So distasteful.
It's
I don't
so
know.
distasteful.
That is the one thing that like the director is just like, the second thing that the director is just like completely turning a blind eye to. Like, what? No, people would love a Stab movie.
No.
Which it's true. People do watch like,
I guess knife murders are not as like visceral as like gun murders. So
but still,
Columbine.
I mean, people watch
comparison.
like Ted Bundy murders and stuff like that.
That's true.
But it's still like there's still a distance. Well, I guess technically, because Ted Bundy was like the 80s or something.
Yeah.
So there's still technically that distance.
Yeah.
But I feel like people don't idolize him and go and watch his
the
movies
scene in
in
the
theaters.
second movie where they're in the theaters, the movie hasn't even been like released yet. This is the premiere, and everyone's in the theater in the second film dressed as Ghostface, running around like goddamn maniacs.
And at that point, it had happened last year.
I know.
Where
Like,
it's
what
like
the
that.
fuck?
No, guys.
The
no.
distaste.
Yeah.
I know, and she's like ranting like this was everyone's favorite movie, got them into horror movies. I'm like, they're sick fucks.
They're sick.
Because my favorite horror films are not based on real
And you know
death.
what? No wonder so many Ghostface keep surfacing because they're all psychos.
Yeah,
every fan of that franchise.
So I'm gonna give my biggest major complaint about this movie.
Ooh.
Outside of the fucking fact that a 5'0" person transformed into a 6 foot tall. Other than that, that's my biggest issue in terms of
absolutely.
just like the visual side of it. It doesn't actually ruin, but it does kind of, but it doesn't. But thematically, the issue I had with this movie, first movie, there is no motive. I mean, there is technically.
Yeah, there's a motive.
But even that motive, when he finally goes, oh, maybe it was your slutbag mother, that's been hinted to the entire film.
Yeah.
And it was not only hinted to, but the killer actively talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
Every Scream movie since has basically withheld not only the fact that there has been more of a motive than the first movie, which was like, oh, we were just two fucks who decided to go on a spree because we like horror movies. There's no more motive. There's nothing thematically outside. The entire film is setting up the theme without you even realizing it.
Yeah.
But every sequel since has had to set up a new motive, and I don't think every single since has done a good job of thematically showing you the motive until they say, here is my motive.
True.
So this film does a better job because, like, the second movie, fucking, how was I supposed to know Billy's mom was the killer and that she wanted revenge? They never even hinted really at his mom. The third movie, they tried to do a good job. That one did a better job of trying to, like, connect the motive and weave it in. The fourth movie, they talk about the fact that it's a reboot, but they're not it's like they're not really, because like at the end when Jill goes off on her fame thing, they've never really set up the fact that, oh, fame is what these killers might be obsessed with.
Yeah.
Or you're never seeing the characters outside of being killers talk about like, what would it be like to be famous or all that.
Yeah.
So you have this movie. She's telling the audience, okay, it's a reboot. The sequel sucked. Every movie since since Scream 2 has shown the Stab series. The first movie starts off in the actual theater of the premiere of Stab 1. Then the third movie, they're on set of that's the second movie, yeah. Then in the third Scream movie, they're on the set of like Stab 4, I don't remember. But like you see Stab 1 in the second movie, you see Stab whatever. In the third movie. Stab 4 or Scream 4 literally opens up with 2 goddamn stab scenes.
Yeah.
And it's heavily involved. All of the sequels up until this movie have been have shown heavy involvement of these sequels. And yet, the movie where it matters, I would say arguably the most, where it's like the movies have become worse and we really respect it and the killers are actively fans. And they talk about it, but the only thing you see in a great cameo, I love James A. Janice and Chelsea.
Yeah.
It was great to see Dead Meat cameo, but you're basically seeing on a computer screen like one section of this movie that supposedly is triggering the entire story.
If you blink, you'll miss it.
And it's like, how is it that the one movie where Stab is, I would say, arguably the most important?
Yeah, because it's literally the motivation in this.
It's the entire motivation.
Itself, the Stab 8 is the motivation of this.
And they not only do they not show it, but the scenes that they show on the computer look like they were shot on a mini DV camera.
But I think that was on purpose.
Yeah, but
to be like it's the budget is going so low and it's kind of going
but
into the
not
toilet.
really, because they say they hired the Knives Out director, which is Rian Johnson, which is the director of The Last Jedi, which was clearly a nod of like, oh, here's a director who made an artsy film that we fucking hated because it was Star Wars and it shouldn't have been that direction. They were clearly commenting on that type of fandom.
Yeah.
But the movie, I'm like, that looks like less than a fan film.
Yeah, that almost looks like it was filmed on a phone camera.
Oh, it looks like it was filmed on a fucking phone camera versus like Stab 1 that we see a scene of in Scream 2 is like verbatim what happened, which which makes no goddamn sense. But it's got real actors, and it's actually shot by Robert Rodriguez, who was the director of Spy Kids.
Wow, so they actually shot.
They actually shot it, and it looks like a real goddamn scene that they're watching. So it's like, oh wow, Stab is. I mean, it's basically Scream.
It is Scream.
I know, but what I'm saying is like, even in the movie universe, it's the same quality.
Yeah.
Versus. And I get it, it's shitty, that's why they'd be mad. But it was like, I just was kind of like, so you're telling me like this film where Stab 8 is the most important in terms of like
Fast 9, but filmed on on an iPhone camera.
Filmed on an iPhone camera, and it's like thematically, they are kind of setting it up, but like when you have a character like the boyfriend who's the entire time pretending, oh, I don't know anything about the Scream movies or the Stab movies because obviously we can't suspect him. But then for him to pivot at the end and be like, by the way, I'm a super fan. And they never...
He doesn't crack at any point.
They never really, showed him being a fan. Like, it feels like, I will tell you what the theme of the movie is, but I'm not going to show you. Like, you never even see him being because he's ranting at the end, fast forwarding. But he's like, what's so wrong with fandom? How could it be toxic? It's about love. And it's like, they never really introduced that theme of, like, they talk about toxic fandom, kind of, but they don't introduce this theme of, like, oh, this is what it's like to be so in love with something.
And then have it screw you.
And then try to change it because you're being controlling. Like, and it's just what happens when you're trying to make a movie where it's like you don't want people to figure out the motive.
Yeah.
So you don't introduce it really.
You really have to be a lot more secretive with that kind of stuff because we're really good. I mean, they didn't even introduce it, and I called the boyfriend. I was like...
Well, you were just calling the boyfriend before we even went into the movie.
I was looking at him a little bit harder, but the point that's coming up where I fully was like, it's him.
Okay. So we'll fast... I will say the one line that kills me both times in that scene where they're in the room discussing who could possibly be the killer. And Dewey points at Dylan Minnette.
And I will say...
Well, he points at the boyfriend at first.
I will say... Oh, yeah. So I will say... being back at Dewey's pad, you know, when they first meet him, I was kind of still open. I was like, maybe it's the boyfriend, maybe it's the best friend. Like going back to the first one, maybe we're going to do our requel that way.
Right.
But I was still openly looking at everyone, whereas like when Dewey immediately goes, how long has she known you? And she goes, oh, 6 months. That's my boyfriend. I was like, you've only known him for 6 months?
Dude's a fucking
He
psychopath.
shot straight up to the top of my
Exactly.
list. I was like, I don't care what we say or what we hide at this point. I'm watching you.
Right.
And then it was confirmed later. But yeah.
So then he then later, Dewey accuses 13 Reasons Why. And then he comes back with like, well, maybe it's you, which by the way has been
my
speculation since like the second movie. They're like, oh, Dewey's going to be a killer. Dewey's going to be a killer. Maybe Dewey will be a killer in the fourth movie. No. And then he goes, well, you're a drunk whose wife left you more famous, and then you like sunk into a bottle and got fired. And he's like, maybe you're the killer because that cut deep.
Oh my gosh. That's
such a good delivery. He does a goddamn good job
such a Dewey
of being
line.
both tragic and hilarious at the same time, and so genuine.
Genuine and lovable too.
But fast forward, we have two basic things that happen at the same time. 13 Reasons Why gets to his tape, and
I'm dead.
him and his mom both get attacked, which that's fucking tragic, dude.
It's super tragic. I will say the one solace that they did offer him was he did not see his mom dead.
That's true.
So I thought about that. Neither of them saw each other dead.
That's true.
I will give them that they at least didn't make the other one see the first one dead.
Oh, that would have been rough.
Yeah, that would have been really hard to watch. But that also would have given us the depth that the first one had, because no opening scene made me feel the way that the first opening scene did.
Yeah.
The first opening kill.
When they see their actual kid. It's rough.
But I will say that this opening scene, though, I didn't have anything that I could technically pick that she did wrong. Like, I very much, because Drew Barrymore was like, why the fuck are you talking to a stranger? Hang up. And obviously he was like, oh, don't hang up on me, bitch. But I was like, hang up and go to your fucking room, lock the door. Like, grab a knife. Like, you're fine. But, like, this one, I was like, no, I can see it. She thinks it's her mom's boyfriend. She's kind of playfully talking to him.
Yeah.
And then as soon as she realizes, like, oh, no, you're crazy, she hangs up, but then it's
she's
too
also
late,
Jenny
and it's already
Ortega,
a whole
who's like
thing.
5'1",
Yeah.
and she does a good job. Honestly,
Of being 5'1".
I thought the character of Tara she grew on me once I realized she wasn't the killer. Because damn it, if that sis was not sus.
I know.
Like every scene, she's like, I'm glad you came back and you're going to stay here. And I was like, bitch, did you do all this?
No,
I mean, I know we saw her get stabbed brutally, but I was like, anything could happen.
Yeah.
Anything could happen.
Like the amount of murdered she got, like almost murdered she got, I was like,
that's the title of a mystery. Murdered she got.
Murdered she got. I was like, the amount of damage she took. I was like, she can't do anything to anybody unless she was a mastermind. Like, unless
that's what I thought.
Just pulling this. Okay,
I thought she was like a mastermind.
Yeah,
of, like
because
hired
I was
somebody.
like, there's no way she's physically involved in this.
No,
at
I know.
all. But if that's the case, then yeah, I can see it. Because I was like, there's no way. They might have one killer that you're like, oh, you weren't in the costume, you're tiny.
Right.
But they're not going to have it be like, oh, these two little 5'0" girls
I don't
killed
know.
everyone.
I don't fucking know, because that killer was towering over her. We looked it up. Jenny Ortega is 5'1", and Mickey Madison is like 5'3", and yet that bitch was towering over her.
Yeah. And
anyway,
then also, I was about to say, also, fucking, when Dewey got killed, the killer was as tall as him.
Yeah, bullshit.
However, in the end, when she had the Ghostface costume on and just her mask off, she had Cindy, who is 5'7", on her knees in front of her.
You call her Cindy again.
Whatever. Her head was up to the girl's nose.
Yeah, it's bad.
So it's like, no.
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 No. So Dylan and his mom, who's the Deputy Hicks, I don't know if you noticed, but like in the fourth movie, she says that her lemon squares are ass.
Yeah.
And then he looks at the fridge.
Courtney Cox says her lemon squares are ass.
Yeah, and then in this fifth movie, he looks at the fridge and there's that note that says there's lemon squares in the fridge, which is not only a cute thing. It's like because they clearly have kind of a maybe too close, not in a gross way, but
but they're very close because clearly, I mean, I didn't see a dad. I'm assuming they're the only two that they have, so they're very close.
That would have been so. If this movie would have just been focused on the new characters, and if Sam, our main character, would have been more involved with the new characters instead of just being an outsider who kind of returns, and we could have spent more time on these relationships, him and her would have been one I would have loved to see a little bit more of, because honestly, it worked, and it made it. I wasn't as sad at their scene as I could have been, because it is tragic when you have a mother and a son who clearly are like caring for each other.
I'm really close to my mom, so I'm glad they didn't linger more on that.
That would have been rough.
That would have been really rough for me to watch.
Yeah.
But then again, It's that gives it more depth, but personally, I'm like, ooh, dodged a bullet on that one.
That scene does 3 potential jump scares where the door
in a
opens.
Row.
It's so
and
funny.
It's funny because it's always it's the first one you're like, oh, okay, because the first one it was kind of a understated one.
If you don't know what we're talking about, it's whenever a character opens up a door blocking a hallway, and it's like all you can see is the character and the door that they've opened, and then the music builds up and they shut it.
And there's nothing there.
And there's either someone there or nothing there. But this time,
you expect that there's probably a killer there, but then there's nothing.
Right.
So in this one, they did 3 in a row where there was nothing. The
Right.
first one's kind of understated. He's just in the bathroom about to walk out, and the music's kind of quietly building.
Oh, it gets worse each time.
When he opens it the first time. And the second time, it's a very clear, when he's in the cabinet.
Right.
And then shuts it, and it's like, And then he goes to the fridge and opens it, and you hear it build again. And on the third one, that's when everybody laughs. And it's funny because it's always the third one that people are like, this is fucking ridiculous.
It was amazing.
Are you kidding me?
So that happens. Then he goes to the front door.
This is a big,
here we go.
big pet peeve of mine.
Say it.
The fact that she fucking...
This is the sheriff, too.
The sheriff, leaves her house and gets the call from Ghostface. Now, she immediately busts a bitch and turns around to go get her son.
Right.
Great. Good job, Mom.
Immediately,
go
what does she do?
That. Immediately. She calls her freaking platoon or whatever the hell that she calls the police force and is like, guys, the sheriff called you and said, get to my house right the fuck now.
Right.
She gets there. She runs in to go get her son. Gets stabbed 8. She
gets brutally stabbed.
She gets stabbed really bad. I'm a little bit annoyed because she's like a police officer.
Why didn't she have her gun on her?
Why did you not have a gun? Why did you not have some sort of defense weapon? Because you're the main one that said don't leave the house.
I know.
Your son is getting made fun of because of how safe you're making him be, not allowing him to leave the house without pepper spray or a taser.
And what did she leave
and
with?
You have nothing. So I'm like, you ran into the house. Now let's say maybe she didn't expect him to be outside. She was running in to grab her gun where she knows where it is or something. Get stabbed. Where were her fighting skills? All police officers are trained how to fight. I'm 99% sure. She gets stabbed. She gets killed. It was really, really sad. It was sad. But I was annoyed that as
Mari
a cop,
Shelton,
she couldn't defend herself.
Who looks much prettier when her hair's not fully pulled back, only showing her bug eyes. She's beautiful, regardless.
Beautiful.
But they definitely were building up her creep factor in the 4th movie.
Her eyes
and
are
this one, it's like
intense.
she's no longer a suspect. Her hair is down. And she's like, she doesn't look as creepy as she did in the 4th.
She's somebody's mom.
She's just someone's
cute,
mom.
She makes lemon squares, and she got killed on the porch trying to save her son, which is really freaking
I
sad.
hate
but
that.
at least she didn't have to see him die. And then she gets killed in broad daylight in front of her house on the freaking sidewalk. And then her son finishes showering, gets out, towels off, goes into his room, changes clothes, comes downstairs. He is taking his sweet-ass time. It is very casual. He is waiting for his mom to come back with food. No rush. It's a Saturday. We don't care. I don't know what day it is. But he goes into the cabinet, pulls out the soy sauce and the sriracha. He goes into the fridge, or he goes into the cabinet, gets the plates, sets the plates, goes into the freezer.
This is fascinating, by the way.
Gets the ice. Okay, but he does all of this stuff. I timed it basically from the time that she called, which it took me a second to pull out my phone, put in the password, get my timer going. So I was a little bit behind.
Right.
It was 5 minutes movie time from the time that she called to the time that he gets killed.
Okay, so here's the only thing I will offer up. Scenes like that, I always imagine, especially when they're like playing with time, I always imagine that what we saw with him might have been simultaneously happening with her because he doesn't get killed until the very last second. So it's possible that and because I do know films do this sometimes where they're showing multiple timelines. It's not necessarily really fast forwarding. It's just more also simultaneously, maybe 2 minutes prior, he was upstairs, he leaves the shower, he walks down, and then it times out to right as Ghostface kills the mom out front. Maybe that's when he sneaks in as the boy has already done the 3rd jump scare.
That would have been more something to show that when she runs up and gets stabbed and it's and falls back, then you need to show him getting out of the shower, coming down, doing all this, and then going into the cabinet, then finish her getting killed, then come back with him setting the plate.
I just take that kind of
You can take that artistically. I'm saying as a consumer.
Also, I want to say one thing. I legit, this is no joke. Today, I was in front of my favorite boba place.
And you saw Scream?
No, there was a literal domestic abuse happening right in front of me where I saw a guy actually punching a woman.
Ugh.
And I had to call the cops, and I got put on fucking hold.
Wow.
And I called them 3, 4, 5 times, and I was on hold. Now, technically, somebody else, I think, was calling
Did
it
you
in.
say non-emergency? Because they will put you on hold if you say
I didn't say non-emergency. I didn't even get answered.
Oh, wow. Well, we are in L.A.
I called the cops.
They're in a small town.
And they didn't call me. And here's the thing. A side note. I called the cops as I'm literally shouting at this man, get away from her. He runs off. They're both kind of like they were not in the clear mind. So it was clearly like a case of I believe she's okay, lady.
Probably.
Pop stars, the woman is okay. Anyway. But I'm literally shouting at this guy, get out, while someone else I think is in contact with the police. A good 15 minutes later, the cops call back and go, hey, did you get that resolved? And all I had to say was, yeah, it's fine. They went, okay, cool, I'm hanging up now. And I went, bitch, what if I was being held at gunpoint? And the murderer was like, you better say. And the cops didn't offer any are you sure? They just went, cool, I was busy anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway.
Like, say that you're fine. I'm okay. Bye, click.
That was a real thing that happened today, y'all.
That's annoying. I will say I worked
Cops suck.
I worked at a 7-Eleven that got robbed. Not like at gunpoint or anything, but like the guy was like, oh, call the cops. So I called the cops and got put on hold for an hour because I hit non-emergency.
Oop.
And I was just like, I had it on speaker and I was finishing like my shift. And then finally they're like, hello, 911. And I was
Get the
like,
fuck out of here.
nigga, like this fool done ran off with all our money.
To prove your point, neither of us is the deputy or sheriff.
That's what I'm saying. It's a small town.
I know.
This is the biggest thing that's happening. And the sheriff called.
Yep.
And no one showed up.
So eventually they do show up. They're dead. And then Sam realizes. So this is also when Courtney Cox shows up, which, by the way, don't know if you notice it. This is the exact goddamn scene and setup as The Force Awakens. You've had your Han Solo grizzled character who's at the beginning of the film and a mentor to the female. And then as shit really goes down in The Force Awakens, it was the planets were blown up and
Han Solo or Luke?
Both.
Oh, okay.
So Han Solo and Deputy Dewey.
Oh.
Deputy Dewey, yeah. So in Force Awakens, Han Solo is a mentor to the main new girl of the series. What's her name? Rey. And then Rey watches planets get blown up. Rey's like, oh my God, no. And then the Rebel Alliance shows up and out walks Princess Leia. And then Princess Leia and Han Solo, who've been divorced for a while, go, hey, you, cool, what's up? And then they interact for one scene or 1 or 2 scenes. And then guess what? Han Solo goes off to die. What happens in Scream? Deputy Dewey mentors the young woman. Something shit happens. Guess who returns? Who's also in a bigger, more powerful position.
Princess Courtney.
Goes up to her disheveled ex-husband. What the fuck? They connect. He dies.
Oh.
Literally the exact same thing. But it's okay. This one did it better.
Question thematically, why do they break up iconic couples?
I don't know. I think it is a dramatic sense of like, I think it works more in this one because they never really felt like characters who would have been settled down. Even in the 4th movie, like they're together and she's restless. I don't like the Die Hard shit that they do where it's like off screen they go, I went to a new town and I tried to be there for you. She's like, yeah, for 2 months. I'm like, 2 months?
Yeah.
That's all Dewey gave?
Yeah.
Come on. I would have been, if it had been
2
like
years,
a year,
yeah.
like a year or so, and then he like broke off, then I would have been like, that's sad, but understandable. When you have someone who's just so like powerful and like moving all the time and going to new scenarios,
and you're not really doing
married to a
anything.
small town person who has never looked beyond Woodsboro, makes complete sense that they would not stay together.
Yeah.
But 2 months? Bitch, she lived in your town for like how many years did the 4th movie say?
Yeah.
And he couldn't stand 2 months?
2 months.
Get out of here. Like,
yeah.
dude, he's too loyal for that.
That's
he's too
true.
loyal for 2 months.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like Dewey, and especially when they were like, oh, and you broke up with me, Dewey. I was like, Dewey didn't break up with you. Dewey was obsessed with you from the second he saw you. He would have gone to hell for you. Like,
I know.
Like, no.
So they meet up. It's a good scene. I basically went to the bathroom at this point both times.
First time.
Both. I went afterwards.
Overall, you've seen.
This is about like what, an hour and a half in, and my bladder went nope.
And it's about an hour and a half into this podcast.
Well, we'll rush it through.
We're not.
Sam sees that the cops are at the deputy's house or the sheriff's house. So she and Dewey rush back to the hospital, and this honestly is probably my favorite scene of the entire movie.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Tara, who's your younger sister. She's got a leg broken. her arms bandaged up. And somehow, where is the power switch to hospitals that is so easily accessible by every goddamn killer?
But let me just really quickly again comment on the incompetence of these goddamn cops. Is that she's there looking at her kid who she used to babysit, Wes, and his mom who are dead.
Right.
And sees the cop who's supposed to be guarding her goddamn sister. Walk across the scene, and she's like, why the hell are you here? And he's like, well, their deputy died. The sheriff died.
Which
I wanted to see. And she's like, you're supposed to be watching my fucking sister.
I will say, I liked that every death in this movie kind of led to something else, as opposed to just like the third movie where they're just killing characters because they have to have a body count. I would argue that they probably not only killed Wes and the mom because they're legacy characters, but also they had just been with him. That both killers had just been in the same house with Wes, so they would have easily followed him back, gone, killed both of them, and then that distracts everyone, so then they can go to the hospital, which was the main point.
Yeah, exactly.
They go to the hospital. Horrendously tense scene.
Yeah.
As you have this killer character who, like, I didn't think she was gonna make it past scene 1, and she's slowly growing as like one of my favorites.
Oh, I know, and I felt so bad because like I had detached from her emotionally, like I like to do, to protect myself. When it was the opening scene, because I was like, she's gonna get killed. That's how we open these scenes.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, well, your sister lived. And I was like, she lived? I was like, she's a bad bitch. I was like, I like her. And then they caught her alone in the hospital again. I was like, oh, she ain't gonna make it this time.
And she's straining so hard. The tension in this scene is phenomenal.
Yeah.
She runs into the boyfriend who gets there surprisingly without a costume on. And he's like, ooh, look. And then somehow this 6'5" motherfucker, it faces a Ghostface that's even taller than him, cuts his arm.
Yep. And then throws him against a door, to which that completely incapacitates him until the sister gets there.
So then we have my favorite like part of the movie where the younger sister, Jenny Ortega, is like slowly trying to wheel away. Tension's great. Ghostface gets the call, does the shot I like where he turns on the voice modulator, and he's basically saying, like, you need to choose between who I kill, your boyfriend or your sister. And then she's like, bitch, I'm stalling. Dewey can't aim for shit. The elevator opens, shoots at him.
He aims well. He hits like 4 shots in the chest.
That's true.
Oh, no. Yeah,
as he exits the elevator.
That's true.
So they confront Ghostface, and here's the issue I have with movie logic.
Yeah.
Movie logic isn't movie logic, because in real life, you don't hear tension, you don't hear like a score, you don't know that the scene's continuing. In real life, you shoot Ghostface, and you breathe and go, he's dead. And then if you decide, oh, we need to shoot him in the head, you just stand up and go, bam, bam, bam. In this movie, he shoots Ghostface, and then the score still continues, so it tricks the audience into thinking, oh, we got to keep running. We got to keep running. But in reality, you would just be like, oh, I just shot Ghostface. They're dead. But Dewey goes, everybody run. I'm like, why is everyone running? You don't think that Ghostface has a bulletproof vest on. It's only the score and the tension of the scene, how it's directed, telling us, get out of there. So then they run back to the elevator, and then he realizes, oh, I should shoot him in the head.
Yeah, but I think he thought that he was... you're saying that
he shoots Ghostface.
Yeah.
Ghostface falls back,
and they think that he's dead.
And the score literally continues,
tells you to run, which it's like you wouldn't run if you.
In real life, like it's not like Ghostface fell back and that was like kind of moving. Where they're like, oh, tension, which even still is stupid because like you clearly have Ghostface on. But in that scene, he shot Ghostface.
Yeah, no, I was really annoyed, but they do it, and that's one of the main things that bugs me about this whole series is that every time they get Ghostface down or incapacitated, they run away from him.
Like, what the fuck?
And I'm like, how many of these do you have to survive to realize, like, hey, remember that time I had Ghostface down and ran past him? If I had killed him right there, 3 people would have lived, and I would have gotten 5 less stab wounds this time. At what point do you go, if he's down, I'm going to stomp his skull into oblivion even if I have nothing?
The scene that got close to this was like in the second movie where they're trapped in the cop car with Ghostface. But even that made more sense. She clearly should have taken the mask off as they're crossing over him, obviously, in the cop car.
Yeah.
As they're sneaking out of the
I remember, but I'm saying that didn't make sense to me.
It didn't make sense. I'm saying it didn't make sense in the terms of like they should have taken the mask off. But it still made more sense than this movie where it's like, you can tell, like, you don't actually know he's dead. For all you know, he's just incapacitated and could at any second.
But I'm annoyed because to me, I knew he wasn't dead. Like, and they should know that. Just
are you talking about in the fifth
just right
movie
now, in this scene that we're talking about right now,
Yeah.
in the hallway. I knew from the stuff that they should have known, where they're like, they always come back because we have to shoot them in the head.
But there's no
So he
reason
should-
for
hold on,
him.
hold on.
But I was saying, it's like he's got the clear advantage. Shoots him. He should have just stand up and kept shooting him. But instead, his brain goes, run.
But that's what I'm saying. I'm agreeing with you. The fact that I'm saying his experience should have told him that even if you thought he was dead, even if you thought like, oh, I'm dead, he's dead, let's run. Like, you should have been all like, no, he's not dead until I shoot him in the face.
Right.
In the face. Also, we've seen a Ghostface that has a bulletproof vest on in the previous movies. So why would you not immediately?
What I was saying is this one made less sense than like the second movie, where at least they weren't for sure Ghostface was dead, so they sneak over him. Still should have taken the mask off, but you can buy the tension more. There's more understanding as to why there's tension there. Could they have taken the mask off and like stabbed him? Yes, but they were a little bit more incapacitated, and there were two girls,
defenseless.
and it
but
was like,
also the cop literally, I'm pretty sure on the hood was holding a gun or
right,
something.
but they still had to pass over Ghostface to get to there. So then they
ran instead of grabbing the
so
gun.
it's still dumb, but there's more understanding as to why the tension continues in the scene. Versus this one, the tension shouldn't have continued. Shot Ghostface, stands up, go, bam, bam, bam. Maybe they don't shoot right away, because in real life you might think the person's dead. Obviously, in this universe, people need to get shot again. But the score continued as if there was still like a danger. And I was like, there's no danger. You just shot it. The score should have died down. Then it should have been like, okay, if they were going to go the route of stupidity gets you still killed, it should have died down. But like, okay, I shot Ghostface. Hey, guys,
And
you
then
go.
have them
I'm
talk,
going to shoot. And then he gets stabbed.
Yeah.
Instead, they all are like, oh, the tension's still happening. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Ghostface in your eyes is dead. Just double tap now.
I know,
but whatever.
That's what I was annoyed with in general. Not the score side of it, but the character side of it. That's like, you should have known better, and you got yourself killed because you were fucking dumb.
I'm just mad because the film tried to trick us, but it was like, no. There's no reason why there should still be tension.
No.
You thought you got him point blank.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the 5'0" kills Dewey, and it's sad. And it's exactly like Han Solo facing
His son.
and like the way he dies. It's just like, and this character's dead. He's dead.
And
he's
they're like,
dead. He's dead.
Like, he's not coming back.
Yeah, they stab him in the
He
back.
got ripped up. He got two sides, completely eviscerated.
Yep. He was supposed to
is
die in the
dead.
first movie.
Oh,
and then he was
really?
supposed to die in the second movie.
But people started liking him, and they're like, damn, now we can't kill him.
yeah, so this
That's
one, it was
funny.
very clear.
Yeah, but this one really bothered me because I just fully am in the mind that by this point they should know. I call it the schwap bap. Is where you go schwap, you pull the mask, and you go bap, one motion. You shoot him in the head, schwap bap. We should know that.
Schwap Bap, now
We should
available
know.
with the breakup steak.
We should know the schwap bap. It's carved into the back of the breakup steak.
Hey, remember the Schwap Bap. If you're dealing with vampires, that's one thing. You just give them a shishink breakup steak. Hey, yeah.
Yeah.
But if you're dealing with a masked murderer, Schwap Bap.
Schwap bap.
Take the mask off, bap him in the
Bap
neck.
him in the face with a bullet or a steak.
Whatever you got.
Something just
Schwap, mask
finish
off,
him.
bap
But
in the throat.
This specific scene is the scene where I decided that it was the boyfriend. Because of the fact that literally he comes in to defenseless daughter who is, or not daughter, defenseless sister who he's supposed to be protecting. Ghostface attacks him. Barely attacks him, slashes him on the arm. I've had worse cuts from cooking from a knife. He gets cut on the forearm and gets thrown against a door and passes out. For like the majority of the rest of this scene, he's completely passed out. I'm like, you're a 6-foot-something dude. That did not stop you.
Yeah.
Like,
They try to play it off as he's kind of like, oh, this is all so
he's
crazy.
Kind of scary and bumbly, but I'm like, at the end of the day, you need to step up.
Yeah.
And then what really got me, because I was like, I'll suspend the reality. Maybe he hit his head. Maybe something happened where it's like they just didn't film it correctly.
Right.
Or they didn't make it seem like it was as hard as it looked. But when Dewey runs in and grabs him, because first off, when Dewey was like, you get your sister, I'll get boyfriend, I was like, bro, fuck boyfriend, he's not helping, leave him. Like, I literally said that.
Yeah.
But then he goes and grabs him. He wakes up, and then obviously Ghostface immediately tackles him because he didn't shoot Ghostface. Ghostface ran in the separate room, and he goes and picks this guy up and walks past that exact room. Obviously, you're gonna get tackled, Dewey. Dewey gets tackled, to which boyfriend does what?
Fucking nothing.
Falls on the ground and goes, oh no, and watches Dewey basically almost get killed. And to which he fights him off, shoots him, finishes saving the freaking boyfriend, and then goes back and gets himself killed. At that point, I said, your boyfriend is one of two things. He's either A, completely useless, and therefore you need to get rid of him because he's slowing you down.
Wow.
Or B, he's the killer. A actually was B. A option was I was like he's the killer, or B he's just completely useless. Either way, get rid of him. He's not helping.
So, so at this point, then we introduce the legacy characters. Which clearly Sydney didn't live far enough away because within like an hour she's there. I'm like, you need to be like in England,
right?
You need to be in fucking like
You
London.
need to be in London.
Like, get the hell out of here. You should not be able to be like, Dewey died in Woodsboro. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Like, what?
They're like, it's just the county line. As long as you pass that sign, you're completely
the killer's
safe.
like,
that would be a really funny meta thing for them to do.
Ghostface doesn't pass.
Yeah, it's be like running and literally like just like cut a roll like past the county line or the
I won't kill you.
And then he's just like stops and it's like
I want to kill you in Woodsboro.
Does the door swipe?
But there's nothing there and he's just like
when his arm is stuck in the door, he just swipes at nothing, but he's staring at the line.
So Sydney returns. She returns, and this makes sense in movie logic where it's like, this guy is clearly going to come after me, so I've got to defend my family. But in real life, I'd just be like, so there's another fucking killer out there. Like, they're not going to find out where I live because I live in London.
Exactly.
So it's like...
And then I'd also be like, hole up in my house. We're not going anywhere until this is resolved. Like, I literally promised Dewey he's dead, but his last thing he literally said to me was,
come.
No matter what happens, don't come here. And she said, I fucking won't. And then turned around and did because she has to come...
defend her family. It's okay. It's about the best you could do. I really appreciate the fact that this film decided to go more with new characters than just the old characters. Because at what point are you just like, you three need to not be involved in these fucking murders.
Yeah, stop coming back.
So she comes back, and I just couldn't help but love, like, these two actresses know these characters so well, and you can tell they're friends in real life. It feels so genuine. Once again, like I said, Courtney Cox does a really good job of like genuinely being hurt, still being Gale, but still kind of holding back kind of like this. Like, I love how at the end, they're like, how are you doing? She goes, ask me in a few days. And I was like, that's a real answer. Like, that's good. Like, how many horror movies have I fucking watched where a character has their best friend or their lover or their family member murdered, and then by the end, they're still making quips. And you're just like...
You're like, oh, man, better than that guy, am I right?
It's like, no, like, Gale honestly has that stoic, like, this is fucked up, and I just lost my best friend, and I'll still crack jokes because that's my coping mechanism, but it's not out of character. Love that. So she's
Courtney
great.
Cox is playing Chandler.
Stupid. And here's the only thing I didn't really buy. So Sam, the older sister, this entire time is like, we got to find out who the killer is, and she's kind of instigating everything. And then I guess I can buy it where, oh, she did come after her younger sister, and then she point blank goes, let's get out of Dodge. But then Sydney basically comes up to Sam with the same proposal that she came up to Dewey with, which is, let's end this and figure out who it is. And for some reason, Sam's like, like, no, and almost acts like, how could you ask that of me? I'm like, you just asked that of Dewey, like no more than a day ago, today. And I didn't fully see the switch where she's like, because she reacts to Sydney kind of like in a,
how could you ever ask
how could you ever?
That?
I'm like, what? This is what you wanted.
Yeah.
Like, I get the idea of like, let's get the hell out of Dodge, but I was needing a little bit more of a, why did she pivot so much?
Well, I think she pivoted because that one was such a close call. At first it was like, hey, he attacked my sister, but she's fine. But like, now let's figure out who did this. And then the second time where she's like, my sister almost died and I literally just watched somebody get killed for the first time. This is not a fucking joke.
Right.
I'm leaving right now.
That's true.
Like,
she hadn't seen someone die.
That was kind of the pivot where she was like, I literally don't care how many times you've lived through this movie. I'm leaving.
Right. So they decide to get out of Dodge, get the hell out of Dodge. And then here's the thing that's frustrating to me. And this is when I was wondering if it was the sister, if it was Jenny Ortega, because she's like, oh, I left my inhaler. And I would have been like, who fucking cares?
Guess you're going to suffocate, bitch.
I guess we'll go to a hospital outside of Woodsboro.
Yeah, no, seriously, that really is what they should have done.
And you know, the boyfriend, of course, is like, I was laughing because like he's like playing along, like, oh no, we can't go back. Yeah. That's so dumb. We should get out of Dodge. And then the two girls who are both innocent, we find out, convince him. And I was like, what if they had just been like, You're right. This is stupid. Would you have been
going.
like,
well,
wait a minute, hang on.
She's dying.
No, you're right. It was so stupid. Why would we go?
Needs her inhaler.
Why would we go to another character's house to get an inhaler?
Well, she
No,
can't
no.
breathe.
You said we
can't
shouldn't
breathe, right? She said she can't breathe. So I'll just stop. And when we get there, we'll decide if we want to go in or not. I'm not the killer.
Richie, are you the killer? Like, what the fuck? And once again, I just really hate. I hate villains that are later revealed where everything they said prior was a lie. Yeah. I get it. In real life, people lie. So it's like, but there's nothing, it's not as satisfying when it's like, oh, I'm a completely different person. Like, oh, it's surprising.
There was nothing to pick up on because
everything they said was a fucking lie.
Sane person.
It's you could basically just reveal another character that was never in the film because there was nothing about who they were before the reveal
that shows who
they technically are. He never showed himself as a fanboy. He never showed any sense of obsessiveness or toxicness. It was always like it just was a complete 180 turn, and it's not as satisfying as like when Stu changes nothing. He's like, oh, that goofy fuck at the beginning is actually a goofy fuck who's also a sociopath. Nothing changes. It's just scarier because you're like, God damn it.
You've been killing people this whole time.
And you were right there in front of me. And he doesn't change his performance. And it's so good. Billy gets a little darker, but
he was already
already there. Everything
dark.
He said to her was stuff he had already said.
After he was like, bro, get over your dead mom and sleep with me. You're like, you're kind of dark, aren't you?
Like, you're a sick, horny fuck.
I will say one inconsistency that bothered me here was when the sister was in the hospital originally and she's alone and Ghostface goes to kill her and she decides she needs to move. I know she was in the hospital and she was hurt, but I was like, bitch, you need to get up and run. Like, get over it.
No.
Get over it.
She had a broken leg.
But she had a cast on.
No.
I was like, get over it and run. But I was going to say, okay, maybe it's been like a day or two. Maybe she's not healed. Maybe she can't walk or put any weight. Maybe she can't move like that.
It's only been a day.
Tell me why they get her out of that situation and then the next night
You're right.
when she says, let's get the hell out of Dodge, this bitch is on crutches, walking around, fighting bitches in the final scene.
That's true.
A night later.
That's
so I was
true.
like, okay.
Not even a night later.
So this is bullshit. I think it's either later that night.
It's the same night.
Or it's
the same
later.
night. So you're right. It's
so
stupid.
I'm like, it's bullshit.
And also when they pull up, it's like, okay, my inhaler's in Tara's room. Cool. I'll be out in 2 minutes. Versus, I'm going to get out. Oh, sure. I'm going to get out too.
Let's
Boyfriend.
all park the car and get out. Let's go into this party and let's clear everybody out of the party. And then let's go search around the house for the inhaler that we don't know is lost because it seems like you know exactly where it is. So why is this the whole thing? Because literally all you should have done is say, hey, Amber, go grab my inhaler. Like, I'll be right here at the front door with my sister.
Amber. Yeah. She should have gone to Amber, who is the villain, and been like, "Oh, I don't know you're the villain.
Exactly.
Go get my you're right.
Get my inhaler."
And then, of course, you would have seen Amber be like,
"She should have come back down and been all like, I can't find it." And then everybody goes off and looks for it because that would have made a little more sense.
But then we also would have suspected her.
I mean, at this point, she reveals herself in the next 5 to 10 minutes. Like,
right.
It doesn't matter.
By the way, we skipped over the fact that big old twin boy gets attacked by Ghostface again. A tiny ass little 5'0" girl
takes down a freaking huge ass dude. And I think it was really sad that the sister watches him go outside alone to look for his girlfriend after they got in a fight. And like literally just like is not worried about it at all. Like I know he's big. I guess he's her big brother, so he's like her hero. He's unstoppable. Maybe she's like he can take care of himself and isn't thinking about it.
Right.
But I'm like, bro, you're the main one that's like anybody could be killed. It's anybody. Don't go anywhere alone.
Fuck my brother.
And you let your brother just go out and be gone for a while and did not question it ever.
Something I found funny though, she tells him to take a weapon. He grabs like the candlestick and
somebody calls him Colonel Mustard.
Yeah. Did you?
I heard that this time.
I didn't hear it the first time.
I thought it. I was like, oh, like Clue the first time, and then this time I heard somebody go, hey, Colonel Mustard.
Okay, good. Maybe it's because we were in Dolby Theater the second time.
True. It's a lot louder.
I heard it and I was like, shit, was that said the first time? That was funny. So he gets attacked. He doesn't die. We thought he died, but he didn't.
One quick thing that was funny when we were watching it originally, and the sister gets attacked the first time, and they're like, "Hey, we have to keep your little sister safe. We can move her to a private floor." And you and me immediately go, "Don't do that!" At the exact same time, we're like, "No,
this is in the hospital.
Keep her with the people." Yeah,
private floor, my asshole.
All right,
so we're back at the party. Everyone's shown up. I did like his interaction with Gen Z, but even then, it's like he should have been saying things that hint to his feelings. Maybe he's like, "Oh, I don't like Gen Z because they take everything." Like he should have said stuff like, "Oh, they ruin everything because it's always like too emotional," or like, "Oh, elevated hoarder." Like, isn't that just kind of like stupid and self-indulgent? Or like he should have been hinting as to what his motivation is instead of just pulling it out of his ass.
We're all so good at guessing now. Like anything he said would have been like a. But then again, just make everybody else look just slightly more guilty.
I mean, they basically could have given anybody motivation. All you have to do is just have him say something that later on is like, once put in context, it makes more sense. But anyway, I'm
we're
ranting.
We're ranting.
So they're in the house. And then, of course, so Liv, who is, well, actually, there's the whole scene where the actual killer goes down to the basement, and then she's confronted by the other twin, Mindy, and she's like, "You didn't pass the test. You would have died." And she's like, "Well, what if I'm the killer?" And I was like, "What if you are, bitch?" "Oh, no, you couldn't be. You're 5'1". And this girl, Mindy...
She didn't say you're 5'1".
No, well, Mindy is clearly much taller than her, but don't worry, when she puts that costume on, she'll be bigger than...
a good, like, 8 inches.
I really do, and I will say though. So I really loved Jasmine Savoy Brown. She's really good. I know she's been in Yellow Jackets. I haven't watched that show.
That's Mindy.
Yeah, that's Mindy. She's great. She does an awesome job. Her character's fun. The only comment I'll say is it's more or less a derivative of Kirby from the 4th movie, where you've got the hot girl, possibly could be a lesbian, knows everything about
but she is
horror
a lesbian
movies.
In this one.
Oh right, I'm talking about. Well, you know,
Kirby.
Kirby was possibly, Mindy was definitely.
Yeah.
But it's like, but you have like a kind of a gender fluid type character who's also a girl, feels like it's written by a guy who's like, but she also says cool like things from horror movies. Isn't she so hot? And you're like, yeah, she does it really well. Both phenomenal actresses. But it's funny how everyone's like, oh, my favorite character from this movie is like, yeah, that's just Kirby. Like your favorite character from this movie is essentially your favorite character from the 4th movie. So it's like, it's one of those things where you go, these directors did a good job, but it does beg the question for every Force Awakens, for every Ghostbusters Afterlife, for every Halloween Kills. It's like, how much are they actually doing something new and inventive, or are they just, as the films like to lament, but don't actually like to fix, serving us the same thing over and over again?
That's fun, but that's really what audiences want, though. At the end of the
is,
day.
but it's funny how when audiences
do it right,
because Kirby was different, and this was the 4th movie. The 4th movie wasn't perfect, but even still, Wes Craven was still doing a damn good job of serving up new stuff. And when it came out, people went, "I don't like it." And now years later, they're like, "Actually, I do like it." And you're like, "Get the fuck out of here."
People do that.
Get the fuck out of here.
So we get, the house clears out. Sister is sitting on the couch watching.
Oh, your favorite.
This tripped. I was like, this is too meta.
How many levels of Inception we have? So we have in real life. No, we have Halloween the movie where Jamie Lee Curtis has Michael Myers behind her. Her name's Jamie, and so that's in the movie Halloween. And then we have Scream,
where Jamie Kennedy, right?
Yes,
is screaming at Jamie Lee Curtis to look behind her because the killer's behind her, while the killer is behind him,
which is being watched by Gail Weathers on the screen that she had,
closed circuit TV that she had.
Clearly used that. Which was then shot in the movie Stab by Robert Rodriguez
to mirror that whole Inception.
So someone played Randy Meeks watching Jamie on Halloween.
This is rough.
And then
and then took that the remake of that whole Inception line and played it for the reboot of her cousin, of his niece character, who is him in this series.
Yes. So she is shouting at an actor playing Jamie, shouting at Jamie to look behind them.
To look behind them as the killer is behind her and she needs to look behind her. But what's great,
oh my God.
Because I knew that the way they were going to change it is that she'll actually get attacked. Because obviously in these 6 situations, the person wasn't attacked because the killer walked by. But in this situation, I was like, she has to get attacked because we have to change it. But I love the fact that as she was screaming, look behind you, you're so stupid. How could you not look behind you? And then she gets this like click moment where
it's not that. It's just more like,
her face is kind of like, hold on a second. Wait, what the fuck? Why am I not looking behind me?
She's high as fuck right now.
Yeah, she's high, but she also is that person where she's like, that's stupid. I should be looking behind me. And then looks behind her and he's right there.
It's just very kind of nonchalant, almost like a, Now, hold on.
Now, hold on one damn second. I'm yelling at somebody to look behind them, and I'm not even looking behind my damn self.
It works so
It
well.
was funny.
And another case where I did like the fact that the kills kind of patterned. I almost wonder if when Richie goes in and stupidly goes, hey, is there any beer? I'm like, aren't you trying to get out of here? So when I think that this character is innocent at first, I'm like, why is he asking if there's beer? You're about to drive. Why would you be fucking drinking beer? Get the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
But then he goes, do you want to come down to the basement with me? His motive was, I think he was going to kill her down there.
Yeah,
Get her out of the way.
sure.
So then when she doesn't go down because she's not
one
an idiot.
less person, yeah.
He goes, all right, fuck you, gets the Ghostface costume on, then comes in to kill her. So I like that. It's like the kills did feel a lot more motivated, where they weren't just happening randomly.
He was like, well, I'm going to kill you either way. So
I was going to do it in the basement.
More thematic, yeah.
But now I'm going to
I just love when he goes down. He's like, did you want to get a beer? And she goes, did you want to come with me? And she goes, no. And she goes, but you were right to ask, though. Like, she's like, you're following the rules. That's cool. And he's like, I'll be back. And they go, I fucked up. I said something stupid.
So she attacks. And then, of course, we have the scene where, like, then everyone comes in. Every potential suspect who was not on screen shows up.
All in the room, and we're all accusing each other.
So stupid because Tara's playing, because both characters are playing the I'm not the killer, and it's like, anyway, I've ranted about it the entire time, and it's not as satisfying when
it's not satisfying when they become a different person.
When they become, because she goes, Liv goes, I'm not the killer. And she goes, "Oh, sweetie, I know," and shoots her in the head. And it's like shocking because like a headshot death is always like freaks me out.
Yeah, especially when it's like just out of nowhere,
especially
from somebody you wouldn't expect. Yeah,
it's just there's something always uncomfortable about gun deaths to me, because it's something that's like
so quick,
you don't have a lot of stabbings because it takes a lot to fucking kill someone. Case in point, you got to be a 6 foot tall motherfucker to be taking people out.
Exactly.
But a gun, anybody can handle, and it's one of the things I find
it's very quick and it's very final.
Very quick, very final, very unsettling, especially with the history that we have in America. So it's like it always unsettles me, but it's not rewarding because I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, now you're a completely different character, Tara. Now you're Amber, sorry, not Tara, Amber, which is the crazy bitch.
The friend. Yeah.
So she shoots Liv. And then, then she goes to aim. Richie takes Sam, our hero, down to the basement and goes, hey, I think your sister's the killer.
Stupidly, I was like, why would you leave your sister?
Yeah.
I'm a big advocate. There's a lot of movies where people leave their sibling. Fear Street was one.
Right.
Honestly, the first Jurassic World, I was like...
don't leave your...
He didn't leave his brother at any point, but there were so many points where I was like, be a big brother and just protect your sibling.
Don't be a douche.
Yeah, like
a douche.
Just be there for your sibling.
Be better. So then we have the whole reveal. I love this moment where Gail and Sydney show up and they're like, all right, we're about to do this shit. It's kind of annoying that Gail always gets taken out right before.
Yeah.
Always gets shot in the stomach.
Oh my gosh. Like literally right as she walks up to the house and she comes out screaming and they're like, what is it? What do you think? And she's like, bullshit.
Right. I love that. I will say another moment where the emotional consistency works, where it's like it's a joke, but it also feels very genuine. The delivery where she goes, "Are you ready for this?" and she's like, "Are you ready?" And Courtney Cox goes, "For this." Never. Kind of like it's so like it's a great trailer moment, but it's also very kind of like you can see the weight of the previous 4 movies where it's like, I will never be used to this shit. It's not fun for me. But when she says, sounds about right.
She walks up, they walk up to the house and they just hear screaming and she goes, sounds about right.
There were jokes that like landed where it was like, it's funny because I see people actually making this joke in this world.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like fucking Avengers making jokes while the world's ending around them.
It doesn't feel like Man of Steel where they make out in the ashes of the entire city.
Where it's like, it's not like a character compulsively doing it because that's their coping mechanism. Yeah. It's just like, oh, the studio said we need more jokes, so shoehorn them in. Obviously, in real life, no one would be making jokes like this. Maybe not exactly this clever.
Yeah.
But for this world, in this universe where death and humor coincide, I think they did a really good job of being like, this is the joke the character would made, but it's not like, it doesn't feel like shoehorned in sense of like, hey, I'm the funny character and I just make jokes even though my best friend just died.
Yeah.
So
we got to fire through this because we're at 2 hours at this point.
Almost. We get inside.
I guess we won't rush, but
we get inside the house. God damn it.
Cindy's like, you got 5 seconds to reveal yourself if you're not a killer.
She just goes on
I'm
a shooting
everybody
spree.
and she just starts shooting every fucking door. I love it. I love that we're fed up at this point.
Oh my God. Her her indifference to Ghostface is so funny, and it reminded me of one of my a movie that I saw, Bad Times at El Royale. Cindy Urveo, all these characters get confronted by what's his name? Thor. Chris Hemsworth. Chris Hemsworth's character is this crazy like guru type.
Oh, I never saw that one. Yeah.
You know, I'm not gonna. It's not really spoiling anything. He's this bad guy. He comes to all these characters. He's holding them at hostage, and he goes to do his entitled male
monologue,
monologue, and she just goes. And Cindy Urveo in this movie Bad Times goes, I don't care. Yeah. And I was like, good on you. Like, we don't need to hear another dumbass man justify his bullshit reasons for why he thinks killing women is okay. She just went, don't give a shit. Same thing happens in this movie. Ghostface is like, you forgot the rule. And Sydney goes,
what did she say?
I'm bored.
And she is bored. Click. And, he goes, what? No.
Yeah.
And you can hear him break so hard. He goes, no.
I thought that was the funniest shit ever. She's like, fuck off.
She's like, no. Click.
She's like, this is so derivative. 2 killers? Oh, okay.
You're going to kill. And then she shoots him in the leg.
Shoots Richie in the leg. Richie's like, oh my God, Ghostface. And they get attacked. And then I love Sydney. God damn it, you have me doing it.
Yeah, it's my
Sydney
bad.
is a great character, and Neve Campbell just does a phenomenal job of selling that back and forth where she's like both strong and scared at the same time.
Yeah.
But damn it, if the script doesn't do her injustice.
Oh my gosh, at the point where this little girl holds
both in the 4th movie and the 5th movie.
Yeah, so I mean, in the 4th movie, at least it was technically one-on-one,
and it was her family
with her and Emma Roberts. So maybe she's holding back a little, but I doubt it because
she got stabbed. She got stabbed surprisingly
early on. Yeah. With this one, she actually hadn't gotten stabbed.
No.
Until the moment where she tried to go for the knife.
So dumb.
Which stupidly, I don't know why you didn't just push this little 5'0" girl out of the way and then grab a knife.
Yeah.
Or just take the knife from her. But anyways.
Yeah, she's like,
Neve Campbell.
Just like you hold the knife up and goes,
like,
ow!
Slap it out of her
hand.
It's like,
you're
she's
5'0". Get out of it.
But like, so it's not like this girl is like a 5'0" like gymnast or something where she's like, okay, she's stronger than she looks. She's tiny. Anyways, but like, it was really annoying that like her and Courtney Cox were having trouble killing this little teenage girl after they've been through 5 movies fighting grown men.
Yeah.
Like successfully killing grown men.
And she does like Sydney
by themselves.
Sydney from 1 to 3 is a fucking fighter. She holds her own.
Yeah.
But in the 4th movie, you know, they do a great job of writing her in between the fight scenes, and then they always keep her kind of clever, but then it's always at the end where they're like, oh, we got to keep her around. They just dumb her down, and it's like, oh, you got surprised. It's like once maybe, but like,
anyway, they overpower her, obviously. They break a freaking bottle of hand sanitizer over her head, then set her on fire. Courtney Cox gets to shoot her because that's the bitch that killed her man, which... Yeah. Fantastic, great for that.
I love that.
She gets set on fire. They don't shoot her in the head. I told them to. They didn't listen.
Meanwhile, Richie reveals himself to be the other killer, and it's just like, cool.
Yeah.
All right. It's like I didn't gasp. I just went, okay.
Yeah, I did. Which I guess that was earlier. It wasn't technically meanwhile, but yeah, when he reveals himself, I was like, oh no!
I know. And then they start monologuing, and we've already talked about this, so we won't cover it again.
Yeah.
But like, it basically points a finger at toxic fandom and says like all the people who got mad at Kelly Marie Tran for playing. Oh God, I forgot her character's name in The Last Jedi. She was the one that kisses Rose. She's the one that kisses Finn, and everyone was like, she's fucking useless. I hate her. And it was very sexually motivated and racially motivated, where they were like, they didn't like the fact that this Asian woman was basically one-upping. A lot of toxic fandom around The Last Jedi was very much aimed at the women in the films.
Didn't they hate what's-his-face too?
They hated
Finn for a minute. They were like, oh, stormtroopers aren't black or something like
that.
Yeah,
it's just the people who are these gatekeepers who say, this is our world and you can't change it. They didn't like that Finn was black. They didn't like that Kelly Marie Tran one-ups Finn or stops him from having his heroic moment. When the entire theme, I could rant for hours on how much I love Last Jedi. But the entire theme of the movie is how arrogance is challenged and said like, being a hero doesn't mean being stupid, and be smarter. Was the movie perfect? No, it was not. But it did a good job of like showcasing the strength of these women, specifically Leia, who is a strong-ass character. Yeah. Since episode 4, she's fucking strong as shit. Her mom was strong as shit. Like, they are strong women, and yet audiences went, I don't like it because you made our male characters look stupid. When it's like, they didn't... Anyway, I'm not going to rant about that. But the point was you had a lot of people who didn't like the movie, and that's fine. But then you had people who didn't like the movie because they were racially motivated, they were misogynistic, and they like bullied these people on Twitter. And that's just one saga.
Yeah.
That's one franchise. You have this all over the course. So I like that they're challenging it, but damn it if it doesn't feel like it comes out of goddamn nowhere. Well, it's like every speech since the first movie has felt like, oh, yeah, I guess that could be the motivation.
Yeah, whereas if you show his kind of the fandom of him like kind of being a fanboy for things before he's revealed to be a killer, you can kind of have the people that are like that kind of be like, oh, haha, that's like me with my stuff. And then he reveals to be the killer and they're like, wait, am I a toxic murderer?
Instead, it just feels like someone was writing the script in the last minute, went copy paste motivation, that's it. And then didn't do a second pass and go. And they talk about it. I know they technically talk about it, but whatever. So he does his monologue. I do like the idea of like, we're going to recreate the events so that way stabs have to make better movies because now we have real events. Because ever since the second movie, they've just been kind of copying themselves. But anyway, so these two overpower all the characters and then they split up. Last things. I feel like we're writing down what happens here.
Basically, obviously, they kill the girl. Everybody's fumbling around and pretending that they're useless.
Okay,
and then we get the last scene where boyfriend and girlfriend are fighting.
Right. And then Sam and...
This
is also kind of a weird... I'm not sure what the film's trying to say because Billy Loomis was a shithead.
Yeah, they kind of made him a hero, but more or less... It's not actually Billy, obviously.
Right. And he's not actually a hero.
This is her personal hallucination of him.
Right.
So this is, I guess, whatever part of her hopes that the piece of her dad that's in her is good. Showing that. Like, basically, that being projected is like, okay, this is my dad, and I thought he was evil, but maybe the little piece of him that I have is helpful.
It's definitely about embracing the darkness, which is another theme I wish they would have really explored.
It's her dark side.
Like ways they could have explored that is by like maybe showing how she is bad. Like instead of talking about it the entire time, she's like, I didn't want you to see me as a bad person. But it's like the very first scene we see her in at the bowling alley, she's taking pills, which is like, okay, we get that. But then she goes immediately, oh, I get a phone call. Oh, my sister, I'm going to help her. So as we're introduced to Sam...
I didn't even think about the fact that she was taking pills, but it's like, as far as I know, everybody takes pills, so I'm not really...
I take pills.
I'm not worried about it.
But as far as we know, Sam is a caring character. Not once did we actually show her up until this amazing part at the end. But nowhere did we show like her actually battling like or doing things shady or kind of like...
But I'm glad that we didn't because I didn't need... that would personally trigger me from Betty's dark side.
Okay, well, I don't...
But they would do it well.
I need like a thematic... It's just the thing that I have an issue with movies where they say this is the theme, but then you rewatch it and go...
Where was that?
Nowhere did any of these scenes... Like a good script is built to where every scene is like showing you or either showing you the bad or good side of a theme. And it's like it's building up on it. This movie did what most of the Scream movies do past the first one, which is they tell you what the theme is, but they don't actively like showcase or like have a discussion about it in terms of like characters acting one way and other characters acting the other way. They'll have characters talk about it, but that's the extent.
Yeah.
It's just a podcast. This is not a movie you're watching right now. You're watching me and Benji discuss something. This doesn't make a good story. It makes a discussion.
But the question is, which one of us is the killer?
Me, and here are my acting skills.
Surprise, I'm Scream. Shank, shank.
No, it's not Scream. His name is Ghostface. So then your favorite, well, I don't know if it's your favorite, but you laugh every single time. It's amazing.
It's just so, it's a lot. But when he gets her down, he's got the gun to her. Well, he's coming after her and she's crawling away and then she sees the tip of the knife, which if I looked at it correctly, because I was watching, she sees the knife first, I want to say, and then looks up and sees her dad look at it. Or maybe, I guess, I'm kind of thinking she saw it in her peripheral and then kind of like saw her dad looking down
Otherwise,
at it.
The dad's an actual ghost who pointed out.
Yeah, because I was like, I think it was just more her brain was kind of making her own. Do it. Anyways, that's probably not correct. But she gets the knife, and he's like holding her down. He's like, yeah. And she's like, you forget the one fucking rule, the main rule of the movie.
This rule was a mouthful, though.
Don't fuck with a serial killer's daughter.
She goes, don't fuck with the daughter of a serial killer. I'm like, bitch, I would have shot you when you said don't fuck. You forgot the main rule. It's like, don't blink. Bam. But she's like, you forgot the main rule. Always wear your shoes on a Sunday, but not on a Tuesday after the. It's like,
don't be a menace to society while drinking your juice in
That's
South Central. Yeah. No, but she said, don't fuck with the daughter of a serial killer or whatever.
Stabs
once. Him through the face and
Stabs
then
again.
hops on top of him and stabs him like 27 times. I forgot to count, but she stabs him like 1,000 times.
Also, if she would have been a Ghostface, I would have still bought that over.
Oh, absolutely.
Because she was still tall enough and powerful looking enough. Like when she got on top of him, I was like,
you're
oh
done.
shit,
You're
like
done.
she's actually kind of like.
And she went to town on him, and I was like, yeah, she looked like she was having a good time.
Yeah, kind of too good.
As the next Ghostface, I would not.
And she even did like the wipe off the blade that he always does.
Yeah, but I feel like that almost is leading into if they do the next one where we're gonna be like, she's kind of crazy. Like maybe she will be the killer this time, you know?
I you know what? I think she did a great job. Also, she's beautiful, Melissa Barrera.
Yeah.
So yeah, she can be in any.
Yeah,
I'll
she
take
cuts
her in
his
a movie.
throat. You know, they come in, they're like, you gotta shoot him, and she shoots him a bunch, shoots him through the head. Fantastic, love it. Fire bitch comes back. I told them to shoot her in the head, and then
Tara shoots her. From off screen.
little sis shoots her in the head and gives the iconic little callback. Said, "I still prefer the Babadook."
I love
call
that.
back to their first conversation when she's talking about favorite horror movies.
That was great. And then the movie essentially ends as the first one began. We get to see the two characters that survived, which are the twins.
Yeah.
So I was happy about.
And they thumbs up each other.
That was very cute. I wanted to see more scenes with them.
Little callback. They thumbs up each other after he makes the girlfriend mad and she storms off, and she the sister turns to her brother and thumbs up him. They thumbs up each other. I'm like, little.
That was cute.
Little brother sister moment.
So they survived, and then of course, I really love the fact that Gail is like, I'm not writing shit about those motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Die in anonymity.
All right, don't hurt yourself. Hop aboard, explorer.
So I like that. There was a moment though after we saw that bitch go crazy on her boyfriend when then she goes, I just have one question for you. And I was like, is she about to say, what's your favorite scary movie? Like, are they going to end on a cliffhanger?
Oh my gosh.
But they didn't.
No, I didn't think so. That was a strong movie.
But here was the one moment that made me uncomfortable with the Billy Loomis thing. She looks over and sees his reflection, and he kind of gives her you did good, kid nod. I went, how am I supposed to feel about this? Am I supposed to be happy?
I honestly think they are setting up for her to be a strong contender for being the next Scream.
I'm about it. You said it. I would love. I don't need Courtney Cox or Nev to return.
I don't need the OG cast. I think they did a great pass of the baton.
Yeah.
A lot of times that is very hard to do. I'm also not.
You're not. Yeah.
I'm newer to the series, so I can't fully say that, but I think they passed the baton well.
Yeah.
But I'm not opposed to them being in it. But if they were to not sign on, I'd be like, I get that.
Right.
But they have a strong enough base now that they can move forward, I think.
And outside of my issues with the fact that Sam wasn't really connected with the new group, and so they never really felt really connected in terms of their dynamics. Outside of that, Sydney doesn't show up until 40 minutes into the movie. And none of them really show up until halfway through. And I had to remind myself, I was like, oh yeah, the legacy characters are going to return.
Them, yeah.
And it wasn't bad. I just was I was thoroughly enjoying the film.
Yeah.
And then they showed up. Was it a little clunky? A little bit, but it wasn't horrible.
It wasn't too clunky. It was very much just a featured hey, you know this person.
Right. But it didn't feel I wasn't sitting there going, I'm bored. Show me the other character. It wasn't like Scream 3 where I'm like, why is Sydney not involved in this?
Yeah.
She needs to be more involved in this film. This one did a good job being this setup works really well. Friends, someone puts a mask on, who done it, who's killing, meta.
Let's figure it
and
out.
It's a
and
good
we'll get help from the seniors.
Well, what I'm saying though is that
the base.
No, what is that called? When you put stuff, the formula.
Mm-hmm.
The formula works. And I think this film did a good job that for the first hour where you're not really seeing any of the legacy characters, so you're not just there for them.
That's what I'm thinking. It's they have the basis where they're this is good, but now we're also going to add these characters for the little bit of validity, but also
moving forward,
we were already enjoying this.
Yeah, moving forward, you could easily just return to that simple formula of killer who's obsessed with horror movies, and you have a good cast of characters interacting. I hope they interact more in the sequels so they don't just feel tacked on.
Yeah.
But it's just fun. I think the Scream franchise is one of my favorites because it is. I love mysteries. I do like it when the mysteries has a little bit more of a payoff,
solvable.
Yeah, as opposed to just being like just point and hope that the person you picked is right. Because as it was like, and let us know below in the comments. But like, is there a genuine way to figure out who it is outside of just pointing and picking?
Well, I think I did a great job at actually picking the boyfriend for a valid reason.
True.
I fully picked him for a valid reason.
He does say it too.
I didn't guess the friend. I did not fully. I kind of suspected her in the beginning with the video. I was like, she could easily just be posing, but that was just one of the passing thoughts I had going through the show, because at some point I suspected everybody. But I very much, with good reason, suspected the boyfriend.
I will say with these movies where a friend or someone infiltrates a friend group to become a murderer, it's so fucking easy to make friends or become someone's boyfriend in these movies. Like, I mean, like, it's like they completely overlook social anxiety or just circumstances. But they're like, if a guy just goes, hey, I'm a random ass dude on a Reddit, I should befriend Sydney to become her boyfriend. Apparently that's as easy as fucking pie. Yeah. Sorry, not Sydney, Sam.
Sam. But it's like, I mean, I guess if you creep on them enough and do enough research, you can pretend to be someone. But then again, it's hard to pretend.
Maybe I should be a sociopath. That's how I'd get a girlfriend. I just stalk someone.
No, but I feel like I want to be like, oh yeah, how would you trust this person that much? But I've had people that I've known for 6 months that I've gotten very close to.
Oh yeah.
Like, you can love somebody in that amount of time. So if she was kind of on that verge already and already trusted him, then I can see where it's kind of like, okay, it is possible. Basically,
right, but it makes more sense. This is where the first film did good. If it's a natural occurrence, like I happen to be friends with them and then they themselves turned out to be a killer, and then they were like, they set their sights on me. That's more natural than it's like if every other person just goes, hey, let's infiltrate Sydney/Sam's group, and they go, done, easy as pie. Get a job with them, super easy, barely an inconvenience. It's like, why is this so easy? Like, if I was to go out and be like, okay, that girl at the bar is secretly, she killed somebody that I love, and I gotta murder her, but first I gotta be her boyfriend for 6 months, and I gotta pretend. I'd go up and be like, hey, and she'd be like, who the fuck are you? I'd be like, damn it, and I'd run away, and I wouldn't be your boyfriend. Movie over.
You're not a psychopath, a sociopath. It's like you.
Even worse. They would just look like a wreck.
If you're that kind of person and you know how to fake emotions because you don't actually have any, all you have to do is insert yourself in their life and start mirroring them.
That's
basically.
so annoying.
Like, honestly, I feel like I could probably do it.
Have you been doing it to me this entire time? Does this end with a stab? All right, wrapping this up. Anything left over that you'd want to say?
What's your favorite scary movie?
Okay,
that was pretty good. No,
I think that was a good one. All right, see, like twins surviving, that was great. Fuckers dying, anonymity, weird question. Do you think off the top of your head you could say what your favorite, like in the list from 5?
That's okay. So that's hard.
I'm gonna write mine down. I think I know what it is
because I'm new. I want to say, because this is really the first one that I really got to. Really, I knew what was going on. I knew the characters. I got to follow the arc.
Right.
It's new and it's fun, and I would say that this is one of my favorite. But I feel like that's probably an inappropriate thing to say.
No, I was. I told you that I was interested in hearing your opinion because you're not blindly like in love with the first movie.
Yeah.
You can look at it as a good movie that came from the 90s, and then you can look at the sequels and be like, okay, I either like them or dislike them, not based on my own bias that I've had since childhood.
Yeah, the first one is great. The opening scene is so hard for me to watch.
Oof,
that is why I don't think I could make that my favorite one, just because that is such a heavy scene to watch. And the first time we watched it, we were both on edibles.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like,
yeah, that was rough. That was when my panic attacks started, FYI.
Rough. But I would say, obviously, that's up there. I would probably say, ooh.
I can say mine. I can say my list if that makes it easier for you.
Let's go 2, 3, 4, 1, 5.
Oh, okay.
I really liked this one.
Honestly, why was 2 at the end?
I'm not remembering much of it.
Yeah.
What happened in it?
No, that's the one where it starts off at the movie theater.
Right. Does anything really significant happen?
So that's the thing. Like 2 is most people's favorite sequel, and upon rewatching it, I just feel like it's a good movie, but it does suffer from the fact that there was a lot of rewrites to it, and that the killer, it's like I have no connection to him. I think Timothy Olyphant does an awesome job.
Yeah,
as a kid. I love them as an actor, and I do love Laurie Metcalf. I think she's great as an unhinged mom.
Yeah,
but like I said, it's just kind of like all right, cool.
I will say 3 only got bumped up because of Parker Posey.
Well, I almost bumped it
up.
up.
Her.
I almost bumped up 3 over 2.
Yeah.
Because I love Parker Posey, but it is a completely different genre of the film. I do appreciate the fact that they were trying something different. But if I was to do...
No, it's totally different.
I would say building up from bottom to top, we'd go Scream 3. Hard because I do enjoy Parker Posey. Like rewatching it with you, we had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
All of these films, by the way, are imperfect. Like even the first one, there's still stuff you're like, the fuck, that doesn't even make sense. So like... By no means am I holding this as holy grail, but you've got 3 at the bottom for me. Scream 2, because I just feel like I just think it's better than 3 technically, but it's also, I don't know. It's good. I like the opening.
To you.
It stands out in some ways, but it's a little bit more implausible in some aspects. Scream 4, I thoroughly enjoy in terms of just like it's outlandish. Yeah. But there's a lot that they swing for the fences of that I think they do really well. I liked Rory Culkin. I thought he did a good job. My favorite moment is when he stabs Kirby and he just like he's this tiny little boy and he's shaking and he looks like a real psychopath. He looks like all of those motherfuckers that like dye their hair and shoot up schools. Like he had that energy to me, and it was the closest to like Matthew Lillard where I was like, that actually feels kind of like a real kid who's a sociopath.
Gonna kill somebody.
And that was kind of unnerving to me.
Yeah.
Jill, on the other hand, feels like a cartoon.
Yeah.
But damn it if she's not fucking entertaining.
She's great. We love Chanel Oberlin. Like
the scene of her beating herself up sends that movie.
Oh my gosh, that was so
I literally only wanted
great.
to watch it to watch you watch that scene.
I was like, bitch, you're done. Like, stop beating yourself up.
It's that to me sent it over where it's like, and when I review, we've said this before, when I review films, I'm not talking about which one's actually best. I'm just talking about rewatchability. That's how I rank films.
Yeah.
What am I going to put in and what comes in after it?
Yeah.
And so for rewatchability, Scream 4 comes in at number 3. At number 2 is going to be Scream 2022. For now.
Nice. No, that's good. Yeah.
Maybe it gets bumped lower. I don't know. I'll have to sit with it for like a year or so.
Funny, we almost had the same list.
Almost.
Except our first 2 and our last 2 were switched.
Yep. And then Scream 1 obviously comes in at 1 for me. It's just,
nice.
Out of all of them, it's the most emotionally consistent. It makes the most sense. You're not questioning it by the end.
Yeah.
You question dumb stuff like, how did Ghostface transport from here to there?
Yeah.
But you're not like questioning it in terms of like the movie itself, like
and the motivation,
its own logic.
And all that kind of stuff.
Like when Matthew Lillard, it's so crazy because Billy is the main villain.
Yeah.
He's the one you should be the most shocked at. But when I first saw that and Matthew Lillard turned out to be the killer, I just was like, holy fuck, there can be 2 killers?
Yeah.
That made no sense to me. It was so crazy.
That's a hella reveal.
And it was creepy because you just go, oh God, I could know those 2.
Yeah.
I could know those 2 and they could be right there in front of me.
And also 5 is very hingent on 1 through 4. So standalone movie, obviously 1 is by far the best.
Yeah.
But yeah,
enjoyability, you're not going to watch that
Drew Barrymore
scene.
I am not. I cannot. I feel so bad for her. She's so good at playing like a victim.
Oh yeah, don't kill me, Mr. Gooseface. That's a fair. I don't know what that was. That was a Canadian accent.
That was a ghost.
Oy. Wow. So that was 2 hours and 20 minutes, y'all.
I'm sorry.
How the fuck
y'all
are you
enjoy?
Doing?
I mean, yeah, y'all have said talk. They're not all going to be 2 hours.
Are we sure about that?
If you've made it this far, you probably want them all to be 2 hours. So maybe we'll cut in something at the beginning. We won't. That says it's not always going to be 2 hours.
Never.
But
I'm not editing this for shit.
Yeah.
Let us know. So we don't know.
Rank them down below.
Yes, definitely comment your Scream ranks down below. And then also, if you like what we were doing, you can follow us, like us, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications.
Check out Patreon where we have full reactions. Check out the reactions, which you probably are.
Yeah, and if you're on Patreon for our $1 and above tier, help us decide what next week's podcast will be about.
Yeah.
We don't know yet. We knew it was going to be Scream because I knew we were going to see it.
Yeah, we're going to come up with a few ideas because we're not completely sure. So we're going to put that on the Patreon and let you guys vote on what we should do.
Yeah, let us know what movie we should react to for next week. Super excited. And until then, I guess I'm Rizzo.
I'm Benji.
Sweet dreams, pop stars.
Keep watching.